Yes, it is that time again. Time for the Captain's Cast. So much to talk about.
And I was just pointing out that, like, a sustained fire cannot burn in space. It's crackling in the fucking wind in space.
And smoke is coming off of it.
Yeah. There's cowboys sat next to it, fucking cooking beans.
It would be really funny to have the shot and it pans just to the right and there is a cowboy with like a small bit like howdy park. Frank Drebin in a fucking astronaut suit just being like, you should get out of here, sir. It's dangerous.
Ahoy! Welcome to the Captain's Cast. I am Captain Garrett of the Swords and Starships channel, live on YouTube, Rumble, and X, formerly Twitter. Let me know if the echo is too bad. I'm kind of in a new environment here. The captain is adjusting things, and if the echo is bad, let me know, chat. But in any case, we have got to talk about the Acolyte. And I love that Count Danky. Count Danky's so unbelievably good. Who's in the chat? We have Anthony Timmons is in the chat. Says, hello, Captain. Ahoy! This is a nautical channel. A nautical channel, and the captain bids you ahoy, sir. Stavjari is in the chat and says, hello, Captain, and the rest of you swabbies. God, I hear the echo bad in this room. Very echoey. Okay, let me try a setting here. I really should have checked that in this room. Hang on, let me try this. Okay, I'm trying echo cancellation. Let me know if that improves it. So yes, we have to talk about the Acolyte. We have to talk about how, in my analysis of this show, what has occurred to me is that there's not really a problem with sexiness in Star Wars. That's not really the issue here. What we have a problem with is an entire pattern of writing, not just in, I think it's being undersold a little bit. We have terrible writing in The Acolyte. However, this pattern has been in Ahsoka. It has been in Boba Fett, where there is bad dialogue and a total lack of setup. And so what we have is a kind of string of payoffs that are never quite earned. So we're going to talk more about that. What Staff Fury says that helps slightly, the echo cancellation. Let me know what you think, Anthony. Let me know if the echo cancellation is helping somewhat. Let's do. I actually, there's a video I want to grab from Dave Cullen that I think is very interesting, and so I want to check this out, and let's just talk about it a little bit. So let me share my screen. Oh, I still had that on the screen there. Present, share screen. Captain is all out of sorts today. Just completely out of sorts. I'm going to do my best, folks. I'm going to do my best.
I think it's important to address something when it comes to the impact of woke on pop culture franchises. All too often, I see hashtags and posts on social media, the likes of hashtag RIP Doctor Who or hashtag RIP Star Wars, whatever. And the same goes for many other popular properties that have been, quote unquote, updated for modern audiences. And I think this is the wrong way to think about these things, because there's no denying that woke has been designed to cause discord and demoralization among fan bases. Pop culture properties such as these have been transformed into vehicles and platforms to drive home the message. And there's been a predictable sort of 3-step process that's emerged as a result.
Ahoy Fu Man Blue is in the chat. Ahoy Fu Man Blue. Again, keep me apprised on the echoiness. If I mess too much with the audio settings, we might get that weird popping thing again. But in any case, Starfury says, Lesbian Headlamp, the Judas goat for Harvey Weinstein, couldn't write a passing third-grade book report. Yes, exactly. Now, I'm starting out the stream with this Dave Cullen video. God, this is one of these. I'm going to have to solve the echo problem in my new office. Let me see if this can help. Audio settings. All right, I'm gonna try this setting and let me know if it makes the audio better or worse. But this can sometimes screw up the audio. So there we go. All right, I'm trying a new audio setting and hopefully that'll fix it a little bit. But let me know. All right, so here's why I wanted to take a look at this video, because he makes an interesting point about reacting to wokeness. Now, I have some agreement with him on this, and I have some disagreement on this. But let's begin by defining what is, he keeps referring to woke, right? As do we on the Captain's Cast. And as I have often said, the reason I love talking about using the word woke is because it's one of the rare occurrences in which a darling word of the left, or just radical identity, I'm not even going to say the left, identity politics wackos, okay, who are obsessed with race and gender and sex to the point of creating every property they create, every story they create is really just a piece of kind of cult-like propaganda that's sort of talking at you. You know that you're watching something woke when you have the feeling that it is you being watched and not you watching the movie or the, you know, for example, take Frenchie in The Boys, right? Frenchie in The Boys. For 3 seasons, Frenchie was dating one of the superheroes. He had this 3-season-long romance arc with the babe that's, what is she? She's mute. I forget her name. I don't even remember the names on that show anymore. Anyway, the mute babe. And they have this long-running romance. In the 4th season, for no reason at all, they completely abandoned that, and they put him in a gay romance, and every other scene is him just kissing or making love to his new boyfriend. Now, think about what that show is saying. What that show is doing is it is inviting you to not like it. It is inviting you to object to it, because if you do, it means you're a bigot. Never mind the fact that that totally rewrites his character for no reason. Never mind the fact that it completely undoes the romance story with her. If you don't like this heel turn to him suddenly being in a full-blown, full-throated gay, oh, well, that's probably a poor choice of words, gay romance, then that means you just hate gay people, right? So in other words, the show is observing you and it is testing you. It is asking you, are you one of the bigots or not? So let's roll tape with that in mind, because so what I'm saying is we need to call this out everywhere it's found. We need to hang the word woke around their necks like an albatross, because it is. Everything it touches turns to crap. However, Dave has an excellent point here, and it bears a little unpacking.
Result of this. So a popular property is laced with current year themes of identity politics. The fan base reacts very negatively.
Star Fury. Star Fury. I'm a bigot. Aren't we all?
Negatively to this, and then some of the people involved in the production or the mainstream media claim that the fan base is full of ists and phobes, and they blame the audience for not being, sophisticated enough, for being angry and intolerant and whatever, la la la. And they claim that the problem lies with the fans and not with the quality of the work they've produced. So there's an arrogant refusal to take any responsibility for the junk that they've churned out. And for years, for decades, these same franchises were producing basically politically neutral shows and films, and there was never such scolding of fans, right? Criticism was taken fairly. A film or TV show lived or died by its commercial success, and that was predicated on the quality of the production. And
See, that's an excellent point that Dave is making here. He's saying that there is most creations of the entertainment space were politically neutral. Usually, the only exception was a show where it was deliberately a political show, right? Where it was kind of but even then, take House of Cards, even in Netflix, House of Cards, right? If they tried to make House of Cards today, they would make it all about a Trump allegory. But because House of Cards had the good fortune of being made before TDS, it's just about these characters. And there are evil Republicans in the show. There's evil Democrats in the show. There's well-meaning Democrats, well-meaning Republicans. In other words, it's politically neutral, even though it's a political show. Speaking of House of Cards. Battlestar Galactica, one of my favorite science fiction shows of all time, had tons of political ideas and messages in it, but it was politically neutral. In other words, the show was not telling you what you should think. This was true of Star Trek. This was true of Doctor Who. This is an excellent point that he's making, is even shows written by progressive people from a progressive leaning worldview still wrote the shows to have nuance, complexity, balance. In other words, neutrality.
How good the story was, how engaging the characters were, and so forth. Somewhere along the line in relatively recent years, say maybe the last 10 or 12 years, the focus changed and ideology became the priority. So you have now all these corporations that change their company logos to the colors of a certain flag in June, where that would simply never happen, more than 15 years ago. And so it's become a focus of corporations, and DEI money has played a role in this. And Hollywood is no different, except it's pushing the DEI agenda all year, right? All year round in various productions. So that's why there's been this strident, almost uniform reaction to any criticism from fan bases, where we're talking multiple properties all around the same time, acting in the same way, and then criticizing fans in the same kind of manner when they react negatively.
Exactly like the Acolyte. Although I believe that is also a strategy for shielding the creatives against criticism. I think that is a shield that they deploy, because if you can say that the fan base are bigots and they just don't like women in it, then that means that it's not their fault. It means that they wrote a masterpiece. You're just too stupid to know it.
And if it was just one time, you'd dismiss it. Maybe it's just hubris. Twice would be a coincidence, but more than that, and you have to admit, it's entirely intentional. That's the way it's designed to be. And I think what's also intentional is the gaslighting of fan bases, whereby they're told that they're the problem. Obviously, that's crazy. And remember when we used to say the customer is always right? I'm quoted as saying that fan service is customer service. We're not seeing the customer service anymore. We're not seeing fan service, right? We're seeing things moving in a very different direction, away from what the fans really want. So the fans haven't changed. Only the franchises have changed, because the people in charge of them have been given instructions to insert certain messaging that very few people respond positively to. A lot of people try to ignore and pretend like it's not there. And a vocal group respond very negatively to. And I think they have a right to. But I also don't like this RIP, hashtag thing for your favorite franchise. It's important to differentiate the modern woke versions of these shows and films from the original versions of them. Star Wars, Doctor Who, Lord of the Rings, whatever it is. They're just iconic, eternal, legendary stories and works of fiction and cinema that can never be sullied by whatever social engineering nonsense is pushed today. The original versions, the pre-woke versions, that's what we cherish and hold on to, and they can't destroy those institutions. Now, to move on to...
Now, this is a fascinating argument that Dave is making here. So he's basically making the classic argument that Never mind the Acolyte being the worst thing in Star Wars ever, not to mention the worst thing Disney Plus has ever created. Never mind Doctor Who having to explain pronouns and other various nonsense. And apologize for being a male presenting Time Lord. Never mind that Captain Picard and Indiana Jones and Luke Skywalker have all become barely able to function old geezers. I don't know, Rothy. I don't know where we're going. Never mind all that. The originals still live. They still live in us. We can go back and watch the original saga of Star Wars. We can watch Star Trek The Next Generation. We can watch the original David Tennant run of Doctor Who, and those projects are still every bit what they were. And I'm sympathetic to this argument because on the one hand, I do sort of just disregard anything after Return of the Jedi. And by the way, I used to be, until this show, basically, I was a fan of the Clone Wars. I was a fan of the Dave Filoni Clone Wars series. I'm not anymore. I'm really not. It's like Ahsoka and the Acolyte, which, make no mistake, Dave Filoni is heavily involved in, has illustrated to me that what we've been looking at is a kind of rewriting, a constant rewriting and self-referential kind of lore building. And look, if you like the Clone Wars, fine. I'm just saying I have soured on them because in my view, that was what sowed the seeds of where we are now. So for me, that original saga remains intact. And in my head canon, I can sort of discount that anything else came after. On the other hand, I recently will go back and watch Star Trek The Next Gen, and I'm telling you, I don't have the same fun with it. I don't enjoy it as much anymore. Something has been taken from it. And honestly, I'm starting to get that feeling with Star Wars. I'll never forget my introduction to Star Wars was the re-release of the original trilogy in theaters, because I wasn't really in the Star Wars space before then. And I just remember experiencing those films as they were meant to be experienced. And I was like, wow, what an amazing, it's a great story, man. It's amazing in the theater. So in any case, now I'm beginning to feel bored of lightsabers. That is a stunning achievement for that's a level of bad writer that is fairly impressive. So my question, chat, is, do you think Dave is right about this here? Is it true that we can continue enjoying the old stuff? And what he's not just arguing that we can enjoy it. What he's saying is, it doesn't matter how many bad sequels or prequels you make of something. If that original was good, it was good. And it will always be good. It will always be a timeless classic. I used to believe that. But I sort of believe what he's saying on an objective level. Like, it doesn't change objectively how good the original Star Wars film was. But my ability to enjoy some of these things has changed. It has changed. But he's about to make his next point, which I think is excellent. Stormcrow says, "Ho there, Captain. Don't know about you, but the only good thing about Acolyte is it single-handedly justifies Order 66. Well, this is a great point, Stormcrow. I get that you're being facetious there. However, I know what you're saying. You're saying that the show presents Jedi that are so stupid. I mean, stupid and just odious and awful and frankly, uninteresting, boring. This show, The Acolyte, has nothing to say about, and I do apologize for the audio, my dear friends. I will fix this in future streams. It's this room. I gotta make some adjustments. So I'm sorry about that. My apologies. It will be better on the next one. New office space for the captain. A new ready room on the USS Swords and Starships. Now, please like and subscribe if you're enjoying the stream. And if you refrain because of the audio, well, I can't blame you. Please. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So the problem with this, Stormcrow, is it's not what George Lucas had in the prequels and the sequels and even the Clone Wars that made the Jedi uninteresting. It is what is being written in these new Disney Plus shows that is making them seem uninteresting and stupid and just awful characters. There's no lore. There is no lore in the Acolyte for the Jedi. Like they are almost like a skin of what you saw in the prequels when they're sitting up there in the council. It's as if that's just a skin that they put on Leslye Headland's characters, but there's no sense of what their actual rituals are. There's no sense of their culture, their rules. What is even their protocol for arresting a rogue Force user? That's not even clear in this show. So it's totally uninteresting. That has nothing to do with what I consider the magnificent story arc of the prequels. I really do. The prequels have their problems. But the story arc that leads from Phantom Menace to Order 66 in Revenge of the Sith is brilliant, is absolutely brilliant when it comes to fruition for one crucial reason. It is the very palpable feeling in Revenge of the Sith that something beautiful was being destroyed, that something worthy and good was lost. The feeling of something valuable being lost. Compare that with the Acolyte, where I see Yord get his neck snapped, and I don't care. I don't care at all. And he was one of the more promising, basic, let's call it a template of a character that had some potential, and I still didn't care. So I don't consider... So what I see is a beautiful story that is being defaced by talentless wackos who don't understand how to... They do not understand how to tell a story. And I've got an article coming up that is going to make this point. Fu Man Blue says, a plot can be about anything, but some things it's best not to tell the audience what to think, but rather show them what's happening and let them decide how they feel about it. That's exactly what I think Dave means when he says politically neutral stories. It doesn't mean that there weren't political ideas, messages, or even a progressive-leaning worldview coming through in the show. It does not mean that. It just means that the writers were not turning it into one-sided propaganda and talking at you. They were presenting a story, they were presenting multiple sides, and they were allowing you, the viewer, to kind of decide where you fell, what you bought into. I used to love the show The Practice. It was a David E. Kelly legal drama in the late 90s, and it was just about defense attorneys. And of course, it had a very rosy, idealistic view of what our legal system was, which I totally bought into back then because I was young and dumb. But anyway, I was just a lieutenant in those days. I didn't know what I didn't know. But in any case, I used to love how they would have these cases that they had to argue, and you'd listen to the prosecution and you'd listen to the defense, and there were often sort of political issues at the heart of that. But the show never took a side. The characters did. The characters took sides, and the characters would argue with each other about what was right and what was wrong. Like one defense attorney on the same team would disagree that they were doing the right thing. That's what I'm talking about. I think that's what he's talking about when he says politically neutral. And that is to your point. You know, Stargate, SG-1, Star Trek, these were shows that used to present, even when there was a character that was kind of an evil character, they would often present a side of them that suggested why they were the way they were. And sometimes they would have a point. Sometimes they would kind of have a point. Doesn't mean that they weren't the bad guy or the good guy wasn't the good guy if he did something wrong. It was just that the world's more complicated, right? So I can't wait till you hear this next point. Anthony says, I think Disney and their ilk are fan-phobic, and I fairly agree. I fairly agree. What else is in the chat? Fu Man Blue says, I think I was finishing up House of the Dragon Season 1 last Monday, Starfury. Oh, good, because I have a few thoughts about House of the Dragon I think I will share. I was trying to, I still hadn't quite processed what I thought about it last Monday. And so I kind of didn't have a lot to say about it, but I've been thinking about it. I have more I want to say on it. But anyway, Fu Man Blue says, I've not looked at a Disney production since Obi-Wan Episode 1, so I really don't associate any of this with the legacy that is the OT. And why? Well, you should, Fu Man Blue. Anthony says, to me, there are only 6 Star Wars movies. Anything after Disney touches it is poisoned fruit. I totally agree. And Staffyare with a £2 sterling super chat. Why, thank you, Staffyare.
Most wonderful.
For TNG. Well, that's a good point. I love the little quirks of all the captains in Star Trek. That's one of my favorite things. I just those are always my favorite little. It's the little things about, Cisco and his baseball. Janeway loves coffee. Picard and his Earl Grey tea and reading books late at night in the ready room. And then you have who am I thinking? Oh, Enterprise. He was obsessed with his dog and water polo, which is a very odd sport for a Starfleet captain to like. As for Kirk, he just enjoyed chasing tail. You know what I'm saying? Man Blue says, what matters about the originals is what they taught us and how they made us feel. You can't erase any of that, which is. So you, I say, fairly agree, Fu Man Blue, with Dave's point here. Wait until you hear what the point Dave is about to make here, because I think this is extremely interesting.
The other thing I often talk about in this conversation, we do, I think, have an obligation to create the new pop culture ourselves, to tell the kinds of stories we would prefer to see in entertainment. And indie authors and indie filmmakers are critical to this. Now, having said that, it is important that our works don't get too mired in being reactionary and therefore anti-woke.
Hail the Iron Age, first of all. But second, that is an extremely important point that he's making. He's like the Iron Age, the independent movement and movement is probably not the best word for it because it's not a political movement. It's an artistic movement of basically people that are outside of the mainstream who are sort of clawing their way to creating new stories that capture the things we really want to see. And he's saying it's important we not become reactionary. In other words, we're not deliberately trying to make the opposite case of woke storytelling.
So I think the best way to kick against the establishment is not to recognize its power. A lot of comedians have also reached this conclusion. So anti-woke jokes can be funny and everything, but they give too much credence and power to woke itself. By mocking it constantly, it only serves to amplify its messaging and legitimize the influence and talking points and power that it currently holds on society. So the best way to move forward with writing and producing good fiction is to start with new foundations. So there are, of course, good stories to tell that can be allegories for what we're experiencing right now, socially and culturally and politically. But to make your work a kind of crusade against the current entertainment system is to become somewhat burdened and saddled with it, which only serves to underline how pervasive it is. But to prove that woke is not all-powerful and influential in our cultural stories is to tell entirely new stories that are completely devoid of it. So being anti-woke is one thing, being entirely unwoke is quite different. So to ignore it and tell politically neutral stories that don't comment or critique or even satirize our current age or recognize the existence of woke is to prove that it's possible to contribute to culture without the presence of woke. So woke won't last forever. It doesn't have a timeless universal appeal.
So that is a brilliant point by Dave Cullen. I agree, and I also somewhat disagree. So I agree with his point that it is absolutely vital that as we move forward as independent creators and we just, like Eric July, the Rippaverse, creating his own independent comic book universe. The interesting thing is his haters always say that he's creating an anti-woke comic. He's not. He's not. He's just creating original comic book characters that are like the kinds of comic book characters he loved years ago when comics were politically neutral. He's actually created a politically neutral comic book universe in ISOM. And that's the difference. Now, the interesting thing is, it's the very fact that the Rippaverse ignores wokeness that I think pisses off his haters so damn much. I think that's what pisses them off so much because, you know, the fact that Avery, his main character of ISOM, is a black man is never called out in the actual comic book. It's not an issue. He is who he is. His family are who they are. He lives where he lives. He does what he does. The story is the story. That is, and the interesting thing is, he does not go out of his way to make anything anti-woke or anything. He just tells a story about this superhero who hung up his cape or his tights, I suppose, and is getting back into the game. That's it. So I think that is exactly what we need to do, because if you make something deliberately meant as an answer to wokeness, as in it is anti-woke, then you are simply engaging in the very same propaganda. And I think the best example of this recently is this dumb cartoon that I don't know where it comes from, but the Quartering had it. There was some right-wing cartoon that came out, and it was trying to be sort of like Archie Bunker, and it was all just anti-woke jokes. All, you know, it's like, oh, look at this blue-haired character coming. Oh, no, Dad doesn't like her. Or it, or she, they, I don't know. Anyway, but it's awful. It's awful. It's the most cringe thing you've ever seen. Conversely, like, I watch films, you know, that are for a Christian audience and they're just all about the gospel. And there's nothing, you enjoy that, that's fine. I find them intolerable to watch. Although I do want to check out that show, The Chosen, because I think that might actually be an interesting way to get at it. But anyway, my point is, it's just as bad when the shoe is on the other foot. Because what are we talking about when we say woke? We're talking about a set of ideas which are roughly a kind of race and sexuality driven communism that seeks to impose its ideas by controlling and censoring speech and controlling and censoring thought and behavior. That is what woke is. Just in case anyone, oh, can you define woke? I just defined it for you. A crazy racial psychosexual ideology which seeks through totalitarian means to impose its will on all culture and all politics. Everything. Sports, news, entertainment, films, shows, everything. Everything. The interesting thing is, it is an act of political defiance now to make something that is simply apolitical. Do you realize this? Do you realize that one of the Eric July is a lightning rod for hatred online because he had the audacity to make a story that was not about race, that was not about wacko communist views. It was, or right-wing views or libertarian views. It was simply about a comic book character. It was apolitical. That's how out of control it is. So I agree with him on this point. However, I slightly take issue with what he says next.
It doesn't speak to something, universal and innate within the human condition. It can only exist if it's propped up by big money and force-fed into the culture. So if you take all that away, it will disappear. It can't.
I do agree with this. Wokeness is by its very nature force. It's force. Because it views the world through what I like to call a sick worldview. That is, it views every human being as they are measured by their race, their gender, and their sexual identity. Their value, their worth, their standing in society, their degree of privilege, their degree of oppression or victimhood, all of it is contained in those immutable characteristics. It is a disgusting worldview. It truly is. It's every bit as nauseating and anti-human as any KKK or Nazi movement of the past. It is every bit as disgusting as those movements. So by its and by the way, human nature finds it repellent. Nobody likes woke shit. It's boring. It's awful. It's ugly. It's off-putting. It's weird. It's weird, folks. Nobody likes it. So the only way to put woke storytelling over is to corner the market and to force everyone to watch it. So he's exactly right here that it will ultimately disintegrate if left alone. So what we are in a battle with is we are in a battle with force. No, look at how Leslye Headland responds to all the criticism online. She goes and gets all of the media, the access media, to write hit pieces on the fans to put over a show that nobody likes. Lies, force, and censorship are the only tools that wokeness has to survive. It has no good ideas. It improves nothing. And in fact, it dirties and uglies the human spirit in every element that it touches. It is an ideology of resentment. It is an ideology of bigotry. It is an ideology of hate. That's why people don't like it. So he's 100% right that it will disintegrate on its own.
And last by itself. But stories that are universal and timeless, they have, and of course will last, and will inspire people for centuries. Woke has attempted to embed itself in so many institutions and so many aspects of life. But if something is created that it cannot consume, that it cannot assimilate, well then, it has met not just an immovable force, and I would say not just its match, but its demise. Thank you very much for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts.
A brilliant video. Again, hat tip to Dave Cullen of the Dave Cullen Show. Excellent piece there. And where I slightly disagree with him is where he says our mission is to ignore it. And I've heard this before. We need to stop talking about wokeness. We need to stop using the word woke. We need to just pretend it doesn't exist. Well, the problem with that is wokeness isn't going to forget that we exist. I mean, look at any creator that attempts to get outside of the mainstream view of everything. They have a target on their back. Why? Because we are in a cultural Game of Thrones. It is no accident that every single intellectual property has been mined and consumed and obliterated. Everything. Wheel of Time, The Witcher, Willow, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Marvel, DC, all of it is a target for Tumblr wackos to insert their bizarre fetishes and force them on us. And it's so bizarre, too, because there's no equality in the equity movement, because now it is perfectly fine to have... Why is every show full of swinging dongs now? I don't understand this at all. Why is every show full of swinging dongs now? Now, listen, I'm fine with objectifying both sexes. However, isn't it interesting that women slobbering and just gawking at the male physique is totally fine, but we cannot have any sexuality as regards women? I think a lot of that has to do with Hollywood is guilty. They have a guilty conscience, folks, and that's part of that. So while I think that our storytelling should seek to ignore wokeness, we will continue to attack, and we will inflict defeat after defeat after defeat on wokeness. And so Stormcrow says, good Christian movies, Prince of Egypt, Lord of the Rings, Ten Commandments, Ben-Hur, good suggestions and good points. Like Prince of Egypt is a good example. That was made to be just an epic. I'm talking about films that are specifically designed to proselytize, like specifically, and it's not that there's anything wrong with setting out to make, like Passion of the Christ. I like Passion of the Christ. I think that's an excellent film. But the thing is that Mel Gibson sought to tell the story, not to proselytize. Yes, is there Christian messaging in there? Well, yes, but that's because it lives within that story on its own, right? So my point is you must seek first to make a good film and then allow the messages, such as they are, to come to the surface. And I think that it doesn't matter what your goal is. It is a wrong-headed approach to storytelling to seek to communicate your worldview above story structure, above storytelling. And I think part of the reason that that's a problem is because it represents a low resolution view of humanity. Nobody is perfect. No sinner is without his redeeming qualities. No saint is without her failings, right? That's just the reality of human nature. And so I think that propaganda storytelling, why is the girl boss so insufferable? Because she literally can do no wrong. So it doesn't matter the context. I think that storytelling must involve an element of complexity. The Lord of the Rings, I would say, is not really a Christian film. It is a film written by a Christian, but it involves themes that align with Christian themes, such as good versus evil and faith in the face of adversity and so forth. But the principal subject matter of Lord of the Rings is the epic quest to defeat the tyrant Sauron. So I, in a way, I think you're kind of making my point there, Stormcrow, if I may be so bold. Anthony Timmons says, and you can throw originality out of the window. Stormcrow says, heretic, what did I do now? I put Tolkien in there, bro. Who said you're a heretic, Stormcrow? No one said that. Starfield said that. Oh, you said that. Why did you say that, Starfield? What did Stormcrow ever do to you? Fu Man Blue says he loves orange soda. I agree. Fu Man Blue says any press is good press. Still applies to any activist agendas, if not corporate brands. I believe there is some truth to that. I think there is such a thing as overreacting and reacting too often. Like, I do think that there is a hypersensitivity to wokeness now that is counterproductive. However, I think that the biggest mistake of the last, I would say, 30 years of Western civilization and culture was allowing lunatic leftist radicals to just run the table and never be opposed and being sort of polite and wanting to debate. I think what is happening is, I think to a huge degree, a lot of why the box office in Hollywood is collapsing and a lot of why the media is no longer able to shield the MCU or Disney Star Wars anymore. I mean, that Rotten Tomatoes score on The Acolyte is kind of shocking even to me. I think that a massive component of that is that we have been on a warpath. We who oppose wokeness, we have been on a warpath, dismembering this sick worldview. It is sick, folks. It's a racist way of looking at humanity. It's an anti-human way of looking at humanity. It must be called out. And I don't think it benefits wokeness when it's called out because it's inherently a motherlode of bad ideas. It's a motherlode of bad ideas. The way that it escapes notice is through stealth. It just inserts itself into children's content. It inserts itself, and when you call it out, what is the first reaction whenever we call out wokeness? The very first reaction we get is, "What are you talking about? This isn't woke. This is how Star Trek always was. Doctor Who was always progressive," right? First, they deny it. Then when it becomes undeniable, they say, well, of course it is, because the world has changed and we've made this for a modern audience and you're a bigot and there's more of us than you. Then we get a 14% Rotten Tomato score. And then what do they say? Oh, it's being review bombed. So they just move the goalpost. And we continue to, again, just poke and prod and poke holes in that terrible mountain of bad ideas. And over time, people come to their own conclusions. So I believe we have inflicted, that would be anyone who opposes the totalitarian, censorship motivated ambitions of wokeness, anyone who just, right or left, if you oppose that set of ideas, you're who I'm talking to when I say we have inflicted massive damage on this worldview. And a lot of that damage is self-inflicted. Don't get it. Don't get that wrong. But yes, shout out Ripa, Fu Man Blue. I agree. I definitely agree. You had something in there. Oh, yes. Referring to Star Trek TNG, loved how they show the flute in episodes after the inner light. I do too. Those episodes are still good. And I think one reason I shared that video from Dave is I feel that it's a good reminder for me, because I spend a lot of time advocating against this insanity But it's also a good reminder, not that I ever would have set out to write specifically anything anti-woke, but it's just a good reminder that we must also remember this ideology cannot sustain itself. Only through force does it succeed. Only through force. The Acolyte is a full-blown demonstration of pure brute corporate force. Nobody wanted this show. Nobody talented had some kind of genius vision for this show. Nowhere in the Star Wars canon were we desperate to find out what happened 100 years before The Phantom Menace. This show is too stupid to exist without the name Star Wars. The only reason everyone was hating on this show months, years before it came out. Every trailer was ratioed. Every single trailer was destroyed in the comments. Every indicator, every bellwether in the entire zeitgeist was saying this is dead on arrival. Nobody wants this show. Nobody cares about it. It's going to be trash. Every indicator. Why does it exist? Because it's an act of force. This show is an act of force. And everything surrounding the immune response to its failure is part of that very act of force. I will grab this article for you right now. He says, whenever I hear the original Star Wars theme, I flash back to the cinema, the smell of popcorn, my orange fizzy drink bubbling under my nose as I take a swig, and the cheer as the ship comes on screen. That is a magnificent description, and I love that too. Star Trek First Contact, man. That is one of the originals for me. Okay, let me grab this headline because this feeds into my point. Okay, so I read this article last Captain's Cast. Let me grab this. I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but I just want to remind you of this headline from That Park Place. Quote, Bone Tomahawk producer claims the Acolyte showrunner Leslye Headland used to be based and would have shit all over the Acolyte for its stupid gender motives and dumb physics. Okay. So this is the guy, producer Dallas Saunier, recently claimed that the Acolyte showrunner used to be based and she would have hated this direct, but something happened to her, right? So he makes this Instagram post. This is his post. And he says, the Acolyte makes me sad on so many levels. Star Wars is awesome, was awesome. I discovered Leslye at a 15-seat theater on Santa Monica Boulevard back in 2007. Like Greta, meaning Greta Gerwig, I locked arms, the director, Barbie, that would be. I locked arms with this woman and forced Hollywood to pay attention to her. Full stop. You know, I sort of let this escape because I was so interested in whether or not this is true. And if so, why is it true? That it totally escaped me that I really don't have any respect for Greta Gerwig as a creative either. Barbie, despite its great success, is trash. It's a terribly structured story. It's miserable. It's depressing. And it actually doesn't really say anything meaningful. I consider it a giant missed opportunity. And I consider it the second worst film of 2023. So, Barbie does not make me respect Greta Gerwig at all because she couldn't see the magic right in front of her face. As a creative, nothing personal. Ditto Leslye Headland. She's not a talented person. I'm sorry, folks. I don't care. Oh, she's getting noted to death from Dave Filoni. Oh, it's Kathleen Kennedy. She's interfering. Oh, it's too many cooks in the kitchen. I don't care. She's the showrunner. The fact that the dialogue in this show is completely contradictory, time and space has no meaning, the plot is the worst kind of and then this happened storytelling. Can you even tell me what the motivation of May is? I can't. She literally changes sides 3 times an episode. Nobody with talent is going to let that much garbage escape. So I would argue, I don't think that Greta or Leslye were ever talented. And it makes me doubt that this guy's talented. But in any case, he goes on to say she would have shit all over the Acolyte for its stupid gender motives and dumb physics like fire in outer space. And then he goes on to say that, like, so she eventually did some kind of heel turn. And why did that happen? He says, hey, look, we all get older. We all got to pay the bills, and the world got cracked. I get it. But it is just sad to see someone I managed for over 8 years and cared so much about become the very thing she and I would mercilessly mock for a decade. So that leads me to my next piece of information about Leslye Headland. So hat tip, geeks and gamers, I'm going to share this video. Oh, hang on. Let me present this. Oh, Man Blue says, yeah, Harvey would have shit on all this stuff, so you know she would have. Makes sense. Well, that's interesting. So you're saying she's like a chameleon, and she would have... She's becoming whoever she needs to be to survive. Well, the reality is that's probably close to the truth because she's not a talented person. She's certainly not a talented writer. She certainly has no business running a show with a $180 million budget. So Fu Man Blue says, the damage we've inflicted is simply by talking about it. Yeah, I mean, what I would say, Fu Man Blue, is if you believe in democracy, you believe in winning hearts and minds. You believe in persuading people. You believe in convincing people, which inherently means you believe in people. You believe in the individual. You have faith that humanity, despite its flaws, despite its failings, despite its even atrocities, will find its way, right? I would argue Gene Roddenberry believed that. And that's why Star Trek has that worldview. I would argue Stargate SG-1, which on your recommendation, Fu Man Blue, I've been watching, I would argue that show advocates that worldview, that despite our flaws, we will find our way. That is what a truly democratic thinking person feels. And that is why they're not threatened by people who disagree with them. Sure, they may not like it, and they may take issue, and they may fight hard in debate, but they're not threatened by the existence of people who disagree with them or reject their worldview. The totalitarian is the complete opposite. They hate the existence of all opposing thought. So quite seriously, we have inflicted damage by talking about it because we have been persuading people. We could only have done that if we had merit on our side, rhetorically speaking. So I definitely agree with you. Stop here. Look, right there, Storm Crow. He's telling you he was taking the piss. There's no reason to be upset, gentle Storm Crow. No reason to be upset. Star Fury is nothing if not a man of compassion. Boundless compassion. Anthony Tibbetts says, what's this? Referring to Lesbian Headlamp, more like a snake shedding its skin. Oh, jeez. Oh, oh, that's brutal, man. I agree with you. Again, if you're just joining us, this is the Captain's Cast on the Swords and Starships channel. We're live every Sunday. We talk all things geek, swords, and starships. You out there, you are what I consider a sailor or a starnaut. That is someone who yearns for adventure, who has a curious mind, a fertile imagination, a nerd. A nerd. And you are here because you love great stories. You love space travel that makes sense. Like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. And I apologize for the echo. It will be resolved on the next Captain's Cast. I assure you. It was, it's amazing. I spent all day setting up this new space for this, and I was so proud of myself. And then I get on and I'm like, oh my God, the echo. Oh no. There's always one thing you don't account for, There's always one thing. No plan survives contact with the enemy. Sun Tzu. Fu Man Blue saying I, which is a nautical way of saying yes, and I approve of that. Anthony Timmons says, I'm really getting a lot of echo. I deeply apologize. My dear friends. If I could think of something I could do right now, I would do it. But it's just not in my power to fix until next stream. So we're just going to have to roll with it. May not get many views on this, but hey, I appreciate that you're out there, Anthony. Fu Man Blue, Staffy, Tom, I know you're probably lurking. Skunk's Workshop is in the chat. Says, why, thank you, Captain. I enjoy the show. Long-time listener, first time chatter. I don't know if that's true, Skunks. I feel like I've seen you in the chat before, but I'll take your word for it. Welcome aboard. And again, sorry for the echo, but we're just going to roll. Tom is lurking. I knew it. I knew you were out there. I knew it. I knew he was lurking. Tom is out in the chat. There you go. All right. Dude, I am a pathological lurker in other streams, so I cannot in any way fault a lurker. And it's honestly because I'm usually driving and listening, so I can't really, unless I'm kind of just on cruise control on the freeway, I'll sometimes just... No. Don't text and drive. Dude, when people text me and I know they're on the road, I always text them back, are you texting and driving? Because if you are, stop talking to me. I'm serious, folks. I don't want people texting me when they're driving. So it's like, I just don't do it, man. I saw something like take your eyes off the road for like 2 seconds, you've already crossed like something like 100 feet or something. And they're like, that's like 5 car lengths or whatever in the space of just a couple of seconds. And you never know what could happen. I've just turned this into a PSA. It's ridiculous. Okay, share screen. We're talking Lesbian Headlamp and why she is a hack. She is a loser. She sucks. And frankly, her show is writing checks that Manny Jacinto's ass just can't cash. Hat tip, Geeks and Gamers.
What's up, Geeks and Gamers? It's Jeremy coming to you.
What's up, Geeks and Gamers?
With another video, and today we are talking more about...
Dude, I was very tempted to take Jeremy's, face palm and put it in the thumbnail, but I went for the Shills instead. I felt like it would be too much ripping off his thumbnails, but I wanted to just put Jeremy doing a face palm in my thumbnail.
Disney Star Wars, Leslye Headland, Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant, and how they continue to confirm everything we continue to say about this garbage series known as The Acolyte. 2 episodes are left, but episode 6 went full 50 Shades of Jedi, and everyone is sick and tired of this garbage. And now Leslye Headland, Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant, has come out and confirmed everything that we have been saying about it. They're obsessed.
I have to say, Ryan Kinel, the angriest man on the internet, I agree with him on this because he says, I don't think there's any issue at all with a kind of sexual seduction of a Sith trying to seduce someone because that's fitting, that fits the Sith use their passions and their desires. And I also take his point that, Star Wars has never been without sexiness. Like, hello, Slave Leia. I mean, there has always been an element of romance and sexiness in Star Wars and in Star Trek as well. However, so I agree with Ryan that in isolation, I don't have a problem with this at all. However, I do actually agree with Jeremy to some extent in his disagreement. It's an old saying, great drama is 2 people arguing and both are right. And I think that's this situation because Jeremy points out that the problem here is that this isn't about a story-driven reason for the nudity. It's not we wanted to explore how the Sith seduce people. It's literally because wokeness is not about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because true diversity would be diversity of thought. But also, life is not diverse. Godzilla -1, no diversity in that cast. Squid Game, no diversity in that cast, nor should there be, because it doesn't fit the story. So diversity is a lie. Equity is not about equality. It is about revenge. And so what do we have? We have a situation in which Amanda Stenberg, which I agree with Chris Gore on this, she is smoking hot. She's smoking hot, and they put her in a potato sack, and they make her look frumpy and dumpy and lame in this show. So they have desexualized, Scarlett Johansson in the Marvel Universe. They've desexualized Furiosa, in the Furiosa film. They've desexualized women in almost everything. And what do we get instead? We get a bunch of swinging dongs in House of the Dragon. We get basically every dude has to get naked in Star Wars now. And the problem is it's one-sided. Feminism is not about equality, because if it were about equality, we'd be objectifying men and women equally. And it'd be great. And everybody'd be having a great time. No, feminism is about you are going to go under the boot. That's what it's about. We are the captain now, and we're going to give you a taste of your own medicine. It's revenge. And I sort of agree with that. Fu Man Blue with a $5 super chat. Your lack of skill at reading chat is second only to neurotic. He said it's not that bad for him. Oh my God. Serious? You sent me a $5 super chat just to roast me, Fu Man Blue? Well, you're not wrong. I mean, you're not wrong, I suppose. Dude, sorry. I didn't mean, that was not what I was. There it is. Okay, good. What was the comment? Someone said the echo is not that bad. Okay. I guess I didn't read it right. All right, never mind. Thank you for letting me know, Fu Man Blue. I'm telling you, this is a work in progress. The captain is a work in progress. I've been just over the course of the last couple of years, I've been just getting better and better at staying in real time with the chat and try to get better at like reading. It is true. It's a different experience when you're in front of the camera and you're trying to bounce. I'm not complaining, not being defensive. I'm just saying I work hard and my social battery is drained. Anyway, thanks for being here, folks. Thanks for the super chat, Fu Man. Thanks for roasting me. Helps keep the captain humble. It reminds me of my humble beginnings. Back when I was a young ensign upstart. And then after many fictional years of nautical service, I became a captain of this channel's Swords and Starships. Now, let us resume with the video.
Session with nudity and the sexualization of Star Wars. And again, don't forget this interview right here that told us all we needed to know. And of course, we even knew this prior to seeing this interview. But when you saw this interview, it really did show a lot of the normies that all of those angry chuds on YouTube looks like they were right the whole damn time.
I want to ask you both because this is, I would say, arguably the gayest Star Wars, I think, by a considerable margin. And are you excited about that? Are you
Not
bracing
the gayest
yourself?
Star Wars. Not the
It's pretty gay. Let's be honest.
Dude, this is how dumb these people are. They are caught in a box here. She is in a box because my experience of this show is that it's not the gayest Star Wars ever. In fact, I'm kind of surprised at the lack of gayness in the show. I actually feel like House of the Dragon is a little gayer these days, but that's neither here nor there. But what's funny about this is she cannot refute this. Do you realize this, folks? If Leslye Headland were to say, oh, no, that's not accurate at all. We're not making a gay show at all. This is actually pretty down by the numbers. Most of it, the relationships are all straight. If she said that, the Access media would be sent into orbit. Talk about what's wrong with it being gay? Why are you a lesbian woman? Why are you ashamed of it being gay? So she is under the gun, folks. There's an invisible gun being held to their heads in this interview. Even if, I'm not saying she wants to refute it. I'm just saying, even if she wanted to refute this claim, she can't. She can't, folks. She's under, you can kind of see in the body language here that she knows this isn't quite right. And she's uncomfortable with this, but she can't admit it. She's got to pretend this is super fun.
Leslye, how do you feel?
Am I gay?
Yes. Well,
Yes.
no, I know you are gay, but I'm asking, are you excited about putting this, this is going to be a talking point.
Is it going to be a talking point?
I'm sure so.
Because nerds are gay.
Well,
Yeah.
some nerds are very not gay and are very threatened by gay
Well, that's
stuff.
true. But
Yeah.
in my
Oh, God. This is what I mean when I say people have a right not to like you. And it doesn't, and life is not fair. The nicest people in the world run into people who don't like them. I'm always reminded of Brandon Sanderson, the author, who writes about, a dozen books a month and makes stupendous amounts of money. I'm reminded of that snooty little interviewer, reporter that spent like 3 days with him and then wrote this nasty little piece about how boring he's so boring. And it's like Brandon Sanderson, by all accounts, is he's one of the nicest guys in the world. He loves his wife. He loves his kids. He loves his fans. He treats them, with all this generosity, and he has a great life and he loves it. And yet here's this snotty little reporter who thinks he's boring and kind of not a great writer. Screw him. And Brandon Sanderson's reaction to this was, well, to my fans, I understand if this upsets you. Don't go after the guy. Yeah, it's, you know what, to be honest with you, I kind of am boring, and I'm kind of okay with that. But all I would say is, as a writer, I don't believe that's true. I think every human being is interesting, and you just have to look for it. And it was a very classy answer. It was a very brilliant answer. But my point is, that is an example of someone not liking an otherwise good, mild-mannered, nice guy, very successful in his field. He was welcoming and hospitable to this guy, you know, let him into his world, his home, and his family for 3 whole days, gave him everything he wanted to write this story. And this reporter turns around and says, "You're boring, and I don't like you very much." And Brandon Sanderson's reaction was not to play victim. It was not to be angry or resentful. It was quite the opposite. He basically said, okay, well, the guy doesn't like me. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And my view is that is the only mature and adult way to handle rejection, because we all face it. Fairly or unfairly, it simply is what it is. A person with a democratic worldview can accept living beside people who reject them. It is the totalitarian who cannot accept rejection. And that is why I say it is a bad idea to have this attitude. Oh, because nerds because nerds who are straight would rather see hot babes than a swinging dong. That means they hate you? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You soy-infused loser. People have a right to not like you for any reason. Doesn't mean I condone the reason. It doesn't mean it's a fair reason. But you are only poisoning yourself if you demand that people bend the knee.
My world, nerds are gay.
Okay. Was this the fun element?
God.
No, I don't think so. And yet people have told me that it's the gayest Star Wars, and I'm frankly
You're offended?
into it. No.
Into
That is a fascinating little moment right there. I think she was about to say, no, it's not. And she said, I don't think she was going to say offended, but she did feel like she was kind of caught in a trap there. And notice how Stenberg immediately ran the little woke litmus test. You're not about to say something against the religion, are you? And Leslye immediately pivoted straight into, yeah, you know, I might be talking myself into agreeing with this guy. That would be Saunier, the Bone Tomahawk director. Maybe he's right. She's a hostage. You know what I mean? I'm not saying she's talented. I'm not saying she isn't a scumbag that worked for Harvey Weinstein. I am saying, though, I think she may very well be interested in telling a story that's not at all gay, but she's got a gun to her head. Look at this. Look at how she does this pivot.
Oh, and yet people have told me that it's the gayest Star Wars, and I frankly...
Right there, she was about to say, and I frankly don't see that, or I frankly don't agree. And then look at what Stenberg, who is an absolute wokeolite right here, she is young and dumb and just totally suffused with the woke bullshit. Like, you know, she made a whole music video about it. Look at the body language here. She leans in. She's like, you know, she's got that kind of arrogant SJW, no, what do you mean by that? Smirk on her face.
You're offended?
Into it. No.
into it. Like that's all they care about. That's all they care about. And so obviously with episode 6 coming out, and we saw what their whole point was, is to make this really creepy scene.
Thanks, Foo. I appreciate that. I'm sure you might have been talking to Staff Yeti, but I'm going to assume you were talking to me. I am the captain of this ship, and I say the crew loves me. Anthony Tibbetts is more like the lamest Star Wars ever. Agreed. Fu Man Blues is always fun to see what people will produce when they know they can fail upward. Agreed.
Which really did bother a lot of people, and it just kind of shows you exactly what it's all about with them. But over here on geeksandgamers.com, Virginia has an article and says, this week's episode of The Acolyte featured more eye candy than usual, and I don't mean the show's middling effects work. Quamir, the stranger Smilo Wren, appears in the nude to show Osha his scar, but she sees much more than that. Showrunner Leslye Headland spoke with Collider's Maggie Lovett about episode 6, Teach Corrupt, and how far she was allowed to push things with how much skin was shown. Headland responded, Lucasfilm really believed in my vision. From a narrative perspective, it had to happen. It had to. It had to happen, everybody. It had to happen. Why did it have to happen? Because what did Leslye Headland say? Write what you know. And she was Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant.
Yes,
so I think we know exactly what she's all about. She continued, he did like a Steven Seagal neck snap in the previous episode. How do you at all get to that humanity? The only way to do that is to show him in such a wildly vulnerable position, and it has to be visual. I can't think of something more vulnerable than someone holding a lightsaber on someone who's that exposed. I just don't. I felt like he was so merciless in that previous episode that he had to stand in front of her and say, you absolutely can kill me. Essentially, I'm at your mercy. It couldn't feel like a put on. It had to feel like he genuinely was totally, you can do this. There's nobody around.
Folks, I mean, dude, this is why I'd say Leslye Headland has no business running a show. She has no business being a writer, because so here's the problem with this. On the one hand, what she's doing is she's writing a kind of who is the author? I can never remember the name of the author. 50 Shades of Grey. What's her name? Who wrote this? Who wrote 50 Shades of Grey? What? Dakota, based on the novel by E.L. James. Okay, E.L. James. So Leslye Headland is LARPing as E.L. James and is LARPing as a romance author. And now, on the one hand, there are valid reasons for wanting to explore those themes of like, a sexual. The irony is, why won't they allow women to be in this role? Because they're creating a lopsided sexual charge, basically. Because in the old days, like 80s movies, for example, there was sexiness on both sides. The man and the woman, they were both sexy, and they both were participating in that. But in this case, you've got frumpy, dumpy, potato sack wearing Amanda Stenberg with her weird helmet cut. And then you have this totally sexualized male who is completely in the role of seducing her. So it's lopsided. So it doesn't actually work as a sexually charged scene. There is a good reason to explore that chemistry. The problem is this. Nothing in this story has set up any of this. This entire show is taking credit for things it has not achieved. That's essentially the problem with the Acolyte. At no point in this story has it created not one compelling character who I can clearly understand what their wants or motives are. There has not been one mystery that's been even slightly interesting in this show. There has not been any lore explored that's actually fascinating. The dialogue is clunky and awful. The problem with not having clearly developed characters that have clear motives and intentions, and I don't mean clear as in they never change their mind about anything. I mean it flows naturally. The kinds of things they do and say flow naturally from the personality we've observed. The problem with not having that and having a character like May, who one minute wants to massacre all the Jedi, who the next minute wants to turn herself into the Jedi and just be with her sister, who the next minute suddenly wants to just flee and allow the Jedi to be killed while she flees from her master, who then the next minute wants to knock out her sister and take her place among the Jedi and go back to assassinating the Jedi. The problem with that is it does not establish any actual clear arc. It doesn't establish an arc for anything that's happening in the show, so that when a moment like this happens, you actually feel nothing. There is no reason for Osha to be run by this guy. There is no reason for her to feel anything other than disgusted by him. She has watched him butcher, stab, and snap the necks of the people she supposedly cares about. She is his prisoner. She is his hostage. He could kill her with a wave of his hand. And she knows this, what's more. It is not plausible. It is not natural for a human hostage situation to be immediately aroused and starting to think about doing the nasty with him. You know what I'm saying? There is such a thing as Stockholm Syndrome. That actually could be very compelling. But the problem is that would take multiple episodes of careful character development, deep character work to sell that. Leslye Headland is attempting to sell huge payoffs in this show with no payoff, with no setup to justify it. That's why I say this show is cashing checks that poor Manny Jacinto's ass cannot cash. You know what I'm saying? Because this show wanted you to feel the thrill of a murder mystery when you know who the murderer is and why she's doing it. This show wanted you to feel the thrill of a fugitive chase of a falsely accused innocent person while immediately undoing that and proving their innocence in the very first episode. It wanted you to feel invested in the wise master's soul without ever establishing what his motivations are or even what side he's on. It wanted you to feel invested in the relationship between these two twins who love each other so dearly and have been separated by time and a tragedy, while then showing you that one sister tried to murder the other when they were kids by saying, "I will kill you." It's like, it's ridiculous. They want you invested in this stunning and brave villain who's going around assassinating all these Jedi without weapons, which is dumb as hell. When she changes her mind every 5 minutes, they want you invested in this reveal of this Sith when you knew who it was going to be from the very minute that this guy was introduced. You knew it was going to be him. They want you to feel shocked and horrified the way you did with the Red Wedding when you watch all these Jedi die whose names you do not know, whose motives you aren't clear on, who you have no investment in whatsoever. Then, to top all of that off, she wants you to be titillated and seduced by this sexual chemistry between two characters who technically have just met for the first time and are enemies, mortal enemies. It is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Leslye Headland is a moron. She is a fracking moron. Folks, I've said it till I blew in the face. I have no other explanation for why every single one of these is crap. Every single one of them. Because these are stupid people who eat glue. Okay? And this is the proof of that. Now, resuming with the video.
He had no fear at all in that scene. He had absolutely no fear. No one's going to judge.
That I believe, because by all indications, Manny Jacinto is an actor who is vastly overqualified for this stupid show.
Judge you for it. So what's up? Wow. This chick is deranged. And again, it feeds in narratively.
You know, I agree. Dude, it is a sign of a sick mind. A sick mind, that a twisted way of looking at romance that she even thinks that this show justifies this. That's my whole point. Like, even if she had done the setup to justify this seduction, it would be in the context of Stockholm Syndrome, which is a psychological reaction to being a hostage and the trauma of being at the mercy of someone who could kill you on a whim. Stockholm Syndrome is a mental illness. It is a mental illness in which hostages begin to have, feelings for their captors, or they start to fall in love with their captor. It's considered a mental disorder that is the result of post-traumatic stress. But that's if they have been a hostage for long enough for that to even happen. This show has established none of that. So I agree with it. She is a twisted, deranged lunatic that she thinks that this is sexy and edgy and awesome.
To her decisions of still upholding his. He says, "You're wondering if it's honorable to kill me like this. You're still hanging on to the rules. You're still hanging on to this code. Listen, part of it is just decency, and she's a good person. But I think he's also starting to teach her. He's starting to go, I deserve this. The dynamics had to be what they were after the episode of what he did in episode 5. He can.
Folks, are you beginning to feel like Leslye Headland has literally, probably without even realizing it, she has literally just written the story of her bizarre, creepy relationship with Harvey Weinstein? Dude, she's reenacting her bizarre tenure with Harvey Weinstein. She's enacting it in this story. Dude, I think this is happening subconsciously. You know, Stephen King famously said that when he wrote The Shining, which is about the alcoholic Jack Torrance turning evil and trying to kill his family, he, as Stephen King puts it, wrote a story about himself as an alcoholic, being an alcoholic without even knowing it, because he was deeply addicted to cocaine and alcohol at the time. So he said, I wrote The Shining about myself without even realizing it. That's him reflecting back on it. I think the same thing is happening with Lesbian Headland. Sanity to Stockholm in an hour, Fu Man Blue says. Perfect. Yeah, exactly. OSHA has zero reason to want anything other than to destroy this guy. Now, the interesting thing is, I don't even buy his motivation for wanting to convert her, because it's not even opportunistic of him. His work is stacked against him with her. He has no specific reason to think she'll be his acolyte. So it doesn't even make sense for his character. Yes. Oh, it's a time compressed real life diary entry. Yeah, it probably is. Anthony says, I think we found a cure for insomnia. Let's see. Fu Man Blue says, I started the Guardian game from 21 yesterday. It's got great character development and story. Good to know. Anthony says, now I feel bad comparing Jabba to Headlamp. Jabba is actually cute compared to this hag. Yes, he is. I think, from a certain point of view. Okay, resuming with the video.
Cannot seem like an alpha male intimidating. We know he's capable of that from 5, but that cannot be his dynamic with her. It wouldn't make sense. We have seen the other side of him. We have to see specifically the way he is with her. He never let May see his face, and he let her, OSHA, see him naked. You know what I mean? The character design was very, very intentional. Okay, so Headland talks a lot here, but the central idea is that Kamir's nakedness was essential for OSHA not to perceive him as a threat. After the crazy...
What? Oh my God, folks. Do you know how sick that is? Dude, I'm telling you, I've sat in a lot of writers groups with women authors working on... I don't think there is any female writer I've ever spoken to that would think this was anything other than bizarre. And I'm not talking about, pearl clutching prudes here. I'm talking about women who like to write romance. They like to write things that are edgy and a little bit, I think almost any I can think of would tell you this is a strange way of looking at this situation. I think generally any woman would tell you that waking up and finding herself the roofied hostage of a man they just watched murder the people they care about. I think most women's natural reaction to that is, let me go sleep with him. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. Dude, this woman is sick, man. She's sick.
Force Fu he performed in Night, Headland wanted him to be fully vulnerable so OSHA would hear him out. That makes enough sense.
Dude, folks, oh my God. Just the levels of twisted pathology in this is unbelievable. He had to be naked so that he'd be vulnerable. Oh my God, folks. She is describing, dude, what do I say? Why do the Shills never ask what this woman knew and when she knew it? Folks, she's telling, dude, she wrote a play. She wrote a play about essentially a producer who is molesting women and his assistant who is feeding him women. She wrote that play. Folks, she's doing it again, folks. She is, my dear sailors and starnauts, Leslye Headland is writing an autobiography. He's naked. He's vulnerable. He's at her mercy, and she loves it.
to me, but the framing and filming make it odd. The nudity sexualized in a way they wouldn't sexualize a female character. Can you imagine a male hero watching a female villain undress, drift into a pool, and take a bath? Can you see why it's creepy and just a weird scene? All this OP Sith character, as this OP Sith character, Quamir knows she's there and wants to be seen, but that's weird and creepy too. The camera also lingers uncomfortably on Quamir's legs, pectorals, and arms. This aspect is unnecessary and inappropriate for Star Wars. I'm aware that there's a precedent.
I feel it's this lopsided, bizarre, unearned kind of storytelling is unnecessary and inappropriate for any storytelling because it's bad writing. It's bad writing.
For this in both nudity and suggestions of sex. Kylo Ren similarly appeared topless for Rey in The Last Jedi, and in Andor contains a couple of scenes that directly imply sexual encounters. It's also notable that Leslye Headland has cited both as influences on The Acolyte. I have only seen The Last Jedi once because I didn't enjoy the film, but from what I recall, Rey was checking him out more than the camera itself was. Well, the fact of these references are still within the Disney Star Wars era, which means that they are not actual Star Wars references. They just
agree.
You can like whatever has happened in the Disney Star Wars era. It doesn't matter. They're not Star Wars. It's not George Lucas's Star Wars, and that has been proven time and time again. And so this sexualization bullshit is a Disney Star Wars thing, and Leslye Headland has taken it to the next level, and it's absolutely ridiculous. I thought a good article here from Virginia for sure. I thought that the entire... I'm not in the business of breaking these episodes down and trying to go, well, if they did this better, if they did that better, it could work. None of it's going to work. You can't make any of this work because the people involved with it do not care. They hate Star Wars. They hate Star Wars fans, and they hate what George Lucas created. They only see an opportunity to hijack what George created and push their bullshit into what he created, but they truly hate the foundation that it was built on. So there's no sense in breaking down whether they could have done this. No, they were never going to do anything other than this trash right here.
Dude, that is a brilliant point by Jeremy of Geeks and Gamers. So hat tip, Jeremy of Geeks and Gamers. Dude, absolutely nailed it there. This show was always, what did I say well before it came out? It's going to be the worst one of these. How did I know that? Because, folks, judge these wackos by what they do, what they say in every red. They're sick people, folks. They're sick people, and they're not very smart. Okay, they don't understand story structure. They don't understand character work. They have wacko ideas. And what do they tell us every time this happens? One of these comes out, and we object to it. We critique it. We review it, and it gets a bad review. What do they always say? Well, this just proves that the fan base of Star Wars has always been very male and very toxic. And, you know, they just don't like it that there's finally strong women and there's finally people of color in Star Wars. Meaning what? Meaning that previously Star Wars was a racist, bigoted piece of trash by a white, straight male. And they are the saviors that are fixing what was wrong. Folks, never doubt the fact that for all of these wackos that are rewriting all of these stories that we have cherished for so long, right down the line, from Rings of Power to Indiana Jones to Willow, you name it, they hate what came before because their sick ideology requires them to. They hate their own country. They hate their own culture and society. They hate their own history. They hate sports. They hate sports, folks. Like, dude, I mean, they have wokeified everything. They hate people having their say on the internet. They hate freedom. They hate democracy. The democracy crowd. Folks, they hate democracy because democracy means that someone you disagree with could be heard and could even get their way. That they hate that, folks. Everything about their worldview is about disenfranchising people, getting revenge on people, destroying things they think were bad to begin with. It's a hollow It's a hollow ideology, wokeness is. That would be radical, racial, psychosexual insanity. That's what I would define it as, wokeness. Which, because it's so stupid and turns everything it touches to crap, can only survive through a sheer act of force and lies. Folks, this was never going to be a good show. It wasn't possible. It wasn't possible. I totally agree with Jeremy on this point. Yeah, we could sit. I do sit here and say, oh well, it could have worked if it were a Y done it, or it could have worked if it were, they tweaked the characters or what. It was never going to happen, and I have no illusions of that. It was never going to happen. They tell us flat out and indirectly, depending on the day, how much they hate Star Wars because it wasn't diverse enough. There wasn't enough, gay men kissing in it. There weren't enough frumpy, ugly, unattractive women ogling naked men in pools. There wasn't enough of that. But there is a type of human, believe it or not, who loves this stuff, man. They can't get enough of it. It's like catnip. It's like catnip to them. They think this, 50 Shades of Star Wars, great. More swinging dongs. And they are what is known as shills. They suffer from a terrible congenital disease called shillery by proxy. By all indications, it's incurable. And the prognosis is bleak. It's bleak, folks. What does shillery by proxy cause you to do? Well, it causes you to slavishly, droolingly defend anything Disney does so long as Disney is doing it and doing it to you. You know what I mean? They're truly masochistic. They're very masochistic, and they make me sick. However, there is a man who studies the shill, carefully intuits their motives, calculates and chronicles their thought processes, and then documents and curates them for posterity, lest we suffer another generation afflicted by this terrible and incalculably debilitating disease. And his name is Grizzy. So let's see what the shills think about all this. Let's see what the shills think.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye. Stings, doesn't it?
Hat tip, Mr. Grizzy.
They're so ugly, but so precious. They're like little ball sacks.
What the fuck?
What? Dude, I love that. I don't know where he found that, but that Mass Effect meme. What the They look like little ball sacks. What the hell is wrong with That's such a weird.
You want me to drag my sack across your face?
My whole team is dead.
Oh, the messages aren't getting through. Is it because of May, or was something else already done to this ship?
Dude, this is I say it all the time. This is the shill, man. This is the shill that I backed. I backed for a long time. He was the horse I was betting on because he was the one shill that accidentally responded accurately when Ezra refused his lightsaber. He had this very sad look at his face. Well, what? No. Oh, I guess it's okay. It's like, so it's like, oh, there's hope for this one. There's hope. But then he had to go and get on the whole racist, bigoted fans bandwagon. And then I was like, I'm disappointed. But this is funny to me, though, because look at the look on his face. This is the look of a man who is detecting bullshit. He can't admit it, folks. He can't admit it. The woke invisible gun is held to his head, as it is to all of us. He has no choice. However, he's still human. Somewhere deep down, his humanity remains intact, and he senses that there must have to be a reason for such a nonsensical plot development. No, sir, there's no reason. It's called "and then this happened" storytelling. Because the plot needs to slow the action down, it contrives a communications malfunction. It is why this show is a piece of trash, and you should not be shilling for it, sir. You're just encouraging this.
No, it's just that Leslye Headland needed to creatively write some sort of obstacle preventing Soul from warning the Republic and the Jedi about the Sith, and the best she could come up with is that the ship just randomly lost power and communication for some reason.
Brilliant, brilliant.
And these paid Disney shills like Star Wars cross-dressing Sexplain, they defend Leslye Headland and her shitty writing.
So still, dude, let ye never doubt it. The internet is forever, folks.
Still, no living Jedi in this era outside of Soul has heard the word Sith.
So did Leslye Headland and Dave Filoni tell you to say that?
100%.
All right, now I'm sure most of you are probably expecting these people to simp all over Chimere in this episode.
Dude, I cannot wait. This is why we're watching this. I fully expect them to go completely. It's going to be gross, folks. Prepare yourself for the grossest shill behavior you've ever seen.
At least Quamir took his shirt off this episode.
Damn, Lord.
But what you might not be...
That one's for you, Star Fury. That's for you. Star Fury, if you don't know, Star Fury used to have as his avatar Garrus Vakarian, the greatest character in Mass Effect, which is the greatest video game series ever made. Trilogy, I should say. I can't include Andromeda in that batch. But anyway, so yes, that's for you, Star Fury, eh?
Took his shirt off this episode.
Damn, Lord.
But what you might not be expecting is that most of the people doing so are not women.
See a butt cheek. Come on.
Jeez. Look at, dude, isn't it incredible? They have groomed an entire generation of men to telegraph, whether anyone's asking them to or not, to telegraph, if I'm not gay, I'm at least gay adjacent. Jeez, show me that man bun.
Commit.
You know, at least have the decency to actually be gay. I mean, I take offense, sir. I take offense.
Give me one butt cheek. Do it.
I think she's getting some cheeks.
Show us your dark side.
Honestly, he's really hot.
Be muscly, hot, and in.
What the fuck? What is going on? I think this guy actually is bi, if I remember. But if he's not, what are you doing? Oh, jeez.
Shape.
Jesus Christ.
And these are the same people that come after you and I when we criticize Disney Star Wars.
Dude, these are the same people that would be worked up in a tizzy over Stellar Blade. These are the same people that are out there being male feminists, defending the honor of the fictional Stellar Blade character.
And say, well, what are you making such a big deal for? Star Wars is for kids.
Honestly, could you imagine if they went full frontal on this?
Why don't you have a seat right over there, please?
Now, obviously, they'll deny it, but if you listen to what these people say and read between the lines, you can tell that they want your children to see this shit.
Oh, yeah, we're going to have full frontal and behind nudity. First time ever.
What? Now listen, folks, I am no prude, okay? I am no prude. I am totally okay with, sexual chemistry in Star Wars. I would argue the original trilogy has sexual chemistry. Even a kind of unfortunate level of sexual chemistry between two characters later revealed to be unwittingly brother and sister, famously. So I am, you know what I'm saying, man? But this is weird, folks. Like, they would never say this. If this were reversed and it was all about this just super duper hot female just being sexualized, they would be the opposite, folks. They'd be like, this is very offensive. This is an awful lot of female gaze. You know what I mean? But it's so bizarre how they fall over themselves to just celebrate this.
And then walk into the water so you get wet and muscly and hot and in shape.
Is this the sexiest Star Wars show?
Oh my God, folks.
And also the most thirsty thing I've ever
What do you mean, Fu Man Blue? Come on, this is the funnest part of the show. Fu Man Blue says, I can't listen to this part of the show anymore. Well, I'm sorry, Fu Man Blue. It's too entertaining for me. I can't. It's like forcing me to watch reality TV. But listen, Fu Man, we have to study the species, sir. We must study them. We must ensure that they never, that their condition can be cured. But you know what the cure for their condition is? Getting rid of Disney Star Wars. Staffyete says, all these fuckers make me nauseous. They make me sick. Dude, it's so bizarre though. The way that they are like desperate to prove how much they love seeing just a naked dude. Oh, I love seeing a naked dude. Oh shit. Well,
seen in Star Wars.
No, man, I'm like watching 50 Shades of Star Wars right now.
Jesus Christ in heaven, can we just move on, please?
Anger, fear, loss, desire.
He is so horny.
Yeah.
This is so intimate.
Yeah.
Why is this kind of hot?
Hey, Lois, if I was going to kill myself, do I slit my wrists this way or this way?
Why aren't you a Jedi, Osha?
Because I failed.
Ooh.
Do
it. It's getting a little steam.
Okay, this is a perfect example of what I mean when I say everything in this show is unearned. Oh, this. Let me find this. Where is it? Where is it?
Whoa,
there it is. There it is. She's got the lightsaber to his neck. Now, we are meant to feel tension in the scene. That is the whole point, right? Will she? Will she do it? And these dumb shills, like clapping idiot seals, are like, oh, she gonna do? What in your experience? This woman is the reason he's alive in the first place. She's the reason that he got to kill so many people because she talked Soul out of killing him when he had the chance. Now, why would she do that? Why would she insist that Soul spare his life? It makes no sense. So how am I supposed to take this scene seriously? How am I supposed to feel an ounce of tension in this scene? This is what I mean when I say nothing in this show is earned. Nothing. And oh, look at how exciting it is. Oh, I hope she killed him. Oh, please. Come on. You don't think that that's going to happen? Even a dumb chill ain't that dumb. I mean, I don't think.
It's getting a little steamy in here. Is it just me?
Mm-hmm.
It's time for you to...
What? What is going on, man? I don't even understand it. It's so weird. They would never act this way. Dude, if they were doing like a rewatch of the Star Wars Return of the Jedi and they see Slave Leia come on the screen, how much you want to bet that every single one of these soy-infused little, male feminists would be just clutching his pearls? Oh my God, I feel guilty that I liked this when I was a teenager. Oh, wow, we have a lot to atone for, we men. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, look at how she's being objectified in this scene. Carrie Fisher deserved better. That's what they would be saying. None of them would dare ogle Leia this way.
Come out of the closet.
That's the damn shit.
Why was that so hot, though? The two of them, like, that conversation and their stance and stuff.
Sounds like you have mental problems.
Oh, God, look at all the aliens.
Look at the cell cat!
Yes, he's back.
Calm the fuck down.
Identify yourself. My name is...
Oh!
Oh, that's a big boy, isn't he?
Kurtosis.
He said the word!
Dude, that's another great example. He explains how cortosis works after it has been introduced as a plot device. That's literally the opposite of good writing. You're supposed to set up for the audience before. Like, you know what I mean? That's how stupid this woman is. These writers are idiots. They eat glue.
He said the word.
There you go. There you go.
This is how low these people's standards are.
It's red.
You're a freak.
Who cares? Who cares? Dude, this is another thing. So they they teleport into the scene where all the Jedi are dead, right? In this episode. Now, in theory, it's been at least, well, look, it was night when they were killed. It's now daylight. That implies at least a couple of hours or so have passed. Why are there no flies buzzing over the bodies? Why is there no sign of rot and decay? And it's not just an issue of plot holes. That's not the problem. I mean, that's a problem. It's the fact that you want the benefit of a kind of shocking level of violence. You want the benefit of the violence and the shock value and, oh, look at all these dead characters. But you're unwilling to show the ignobility of death. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, you know that I'm a giant fan of Breaking Bad, right? Huge fan of Breaking Bad. Do you know one of the things I love the most about that show? The show follows the chemistry teacher, Walter White, who famously chooses to start cooking meth. And in his world, this is a way of pursuing glory. It's a way of building a legacy he never got to build. And to some extent, we as the viewers become a little bit seduced by that because we're invested in him and, you know, we're rooting for the bad guy. We know that, but we kind of have fun. We have fun rooting for Walter White to build his empire. But you know what I love about Breaking Bad? The show constantly does little episode beats or scenes in the episode that show you what it's like for meth users. Like they go through trap houses where there's a bunch of strung out people, you know, scratching at sores and their teeth are all falling out. They're like, and they're muttering and you know, nonsense. They show the mother and the father who don't even feed their little kid while they're out stealing an ATM machine. Like, they show you the ugly, dingy, dirty, awful, gross side of what meth addiction is doing to people. So in other words, what I love about Breaking Bad is it shows you the ugly, disgusting, awful, totally non-glorious fallout of what Walter White is doing. It does not glorify drug use. It shows you what drug use looks like from the sober side of the picture, right? This is crucial. So why am I bringing that up? I'm bringing that up because if Leslye Headland, former associate of Harvey Weinstein and cube-shaped human and unfortunate-looking human, if she had a lick of sense, she would show the decay. Death be not proud, as it were. She would show the decay, the rot, the flies gathering. She would show the ugliness of violence. But she doesn't. She wants the benefit of the ugliness of violence without showing the ugliness of violence. She is a hack, folks. She is a loser. She is a terrible showrunner, a terrible writer. The only thing she's ever been skilled at, probably, is feeding women to Harvey Weinstein, that fat slob. They deserve each other, quite frankly. Look at how dumb these shills are. Folks, listen, you know, we're all entitled to like our B movie or to like something that, you know, whatever. But have some freaking self-respect, man. Nothing is shocking about this scene. Nothing. This scene is so, it's so irritating. It's like the bodies aren't even rotting. How did they even get there this fast? Why aren't they reclaiming the bodies to give them proper burial? It's like every level of this, the details have been completely ignored. And these dumb shills just lap it up.
Aim was to leave no survivors.
Go, secret badass, let's go. What the hell? Whoa! There's the whip!
I'm glad you're here to tell us these things.
That was cool. That was cool.
No.
What?
Wow, okay, that was pretty cool.
No. Whoa!
Yeah. Woo!
Yeah, John Roca, the outlaw, right?
Yeehaw! Hey, Cody, why don't you come over here and be my little horsey?
Now, this last clip, you guys, might be one of the stupidest things I have ever heard one of these people say, maybe ever.
The official entrance of the stranger in episode 5 created a perfect storm of thirst tweets and respect for his fighting skills so that the online hate seems to have at last finally been countered.
Well, Grace, I have something here that you have yet to counter, and that is every single one of your Acolyte reviews getting massively ratioed.
Wow.
You are one pathetic loser.
So that the online hate seems to have at last finally been countered.
She literally said it resulted in thirst tweets. I'm sitting here saying this to make fun of it. They are thirsting. They're thirsting for these dudes in this show. Dude, it's not even the women. It's not even the women thirsting. It's a bunch of dudes. I think most of them, some of them are straight, I think. And it's all the straight men thirsting for Manny Jacinto. What in the hell has happened to our culture, folks?
All you got?
Thanks for watching. Make sure you check out some of the other Acolyte content already.
Oh, Grizzy. Hat tip Mr. Grizzy. A man, a gentleman, a scholar, performing a service to humanity. It's a service, folks. He works hard for us. Harder than I do. Oh my God, man. I cannot even believe that. They're just thirsting. That's the most surprising thing. The Shills, I expected all the women. Oh my God, it's 50 Shades. I love it. And there were them. But it's like all just dudes, wall-to-wall dudes just thirsting over this guy. It's unbelievable. One of them's married. He's sitting there with his wife thirsting over this dude. It's bizarre. We are in a bizarre timeline, folks. We are in a weird timeline. You notice how like wokeness literally its goal seems to be to invert everything natural to human nature. It wants to invert what is natural to human nature. It's unbelievable. What do we have in the chat? I'm sorry, Fu Man Blue. It is for science that I must inflict that on you. For science, you understand. We must not turn our gaze from the shell. I'm torturing my own beloved audience. What's wrong with me? Fu Man Blue says, it would have been awesome if some of her, referring to lesbian headlamp, no doubt, many inspirations included something from the Star Wars universe. Yeah, I mean, I'm with Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers. That was never going to happen for a couple of reasons. Number one, these are ideological wackos. Number two, they are stupid people and they eat glue. That's basically it. Anthony Timmons says she was inspired by See Dick Run, See Jane Chase After Dick, a warped version of that you read in second grade. What? No, listen. This is the weirdest thing to me. She's a lesbian, is she not? She is an avowed lesbian. So why is she so obsessed with writing stories about straight women thirsting over dudes? What's up with that? That just seems odd to me. Doesn't it seem odd to you? I would have expected the opposite. I would have expected that she would have wanted like Amanda Stenberg twerking for some other babe. You know what I mean? It's kind of, that's just odd to me. I don't know what else to say. Anthony says, I love it when you can see the light slowly fade from their eyes when they finally realize they've been backing bullshit, meaning the Shills. Well, they'll never admit it. Like, yeah, that guy was like, well, why aren't the communications working? Is it because this? Is it because that? And it's like, bro, like, have you watched the last 7 series that Disney Plus has produced, sir? Madam or it, however you identify. What in your experience makes you think there is a plot reason for anything that happens in this nonsense? There isn't. There is nothing. There's no justification for anything that happens in the Acolyte. Nothing. Dude, even the fire that killed Osha and May's family was in a brick, a stone edifice there was no wood anywhere in sight for many reasons. But there was no flammable structure anywhere in that building, and yet it burned. You know what I mean? Like, nothing in this show has any justification whatsoever. It's so funny to me. Star Fury says, all of these fuckers make me nauseous. Yeah, I got that one. I doth think they protest too much, says Star Fury. I think they doth need to prove that they like dick so much. Dude, it's weird, man. It's weird. Theoretically, mostly straight men are the ones that are the most thirsty over Manny Jacinto. It's so bizarre. It's weird, man. It's weird. Foodman Blue says, wow, okay, Star Fury. Anthony Timmons says, the Soys want him to, jeez, they want him to violate them with his big fat lightsaber. Jeez. Foodman Blue says, the meth head pumping his arms was the best in Breaking Bad. Yeah, dude, I do love that. They show that, you know, because there are moments in the show where Walter White is talking, and Gail Bedecker are talking about how their product will perform as advertised, meaning the meth, it'll be pure, no added adulterants, nothing to water it down. It'll be the pure product that they deserve. And there's an element of glorification of the drug in that part of the show. But what's interesting is then you see the results of what that product does to people and the lives it destroys. And I'm telling you, it's hyper realistic. It's hyper real. I almost feel like they went to real drug dens to like show some of those scenes, because like when Jesse is all strung out in that meth house, and it's the most, it's horrifying. It's like you can see the roaches crawling over people. It's disgusting. So they show that like drug abuse and drug use, there's nothing pretty about it. There's nothing glorious about it. And I love especially the rare moments when Walter White comes face to face with the ugliness of this world. It's rare, but every now and then in the show, he gets a real-time glimpse of what his product that he's so proud of is doing to people. And you know, the crazy, I think I'm going to start making some lore videos on another channel. I think I'm going to do, and I know I need to make videos on this channel first, so don't worry. This channel is the priority. But I also want to do some lore videos just about like Battlestar Galactica, Mass Effect, and Breaking Bad, some other things that I like. No, there'll be no culture war stuff in those. I just want to do lore analysis, right? And like I've been rewatching Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, and one of the things I noticed is that in those rare occasions where Walt gets a one-on-one look at what the damage he's doing, he kind of likes it. And it's very subtle. It's very, very subtle. You almost can't even detect it. But he's horrified. He's kind of disgusted, but he's also kind of gratified because he did that. You know, it's twisted, man. Like for example, when the Albuquerque 737 plane blows up because of his actions, right? When that blows up and all the debris lands, the eyeball of a teddy bear falls out into his pool, and it gets sucked into the filtration system in his pool. And when he's cleaning that up, when he's cleaning up some money he threw in the pool for another reason, he opens up the filtration system and he finds that little teddy bear eyeball. And it's horrifying because he's looking at the remains of a child's toy that's half burned from this plane crash that he knows he caused, right? Indirectly, unintentionally, but he did cause it. Now, you would expect someone to be so horrified by that he would never want to, he'd throw it away, because this is the evidence that a child is dead because of him, right? He keeps the teddy bear's eyeball. Several points in the show that Skylar will open a drawer and she'll find it. He goes to great lengths to keep that eyeball. Why does he do that? Well, he does that because, as sick as it is, some part of him enjoys that he doesn't enjoy the death per se. He just enjoys the fact that he is affecting the world because he felt so impotent before embarking on it. Dude, I'm telling you, the psychology of that show, it's freaking fascinating, man. It's fascinating. Oh, no, we're not reading that one. No, jeez. You told me you didn't want you couldn't stand the Shills. That's even worse, man. Anthony says his brain has been cauterized. Starfury says, don't blame me for liking J-Lo's arse. Well, Starfury, the same male soys that you saw in that Shill video who are just thirsting for Manny Jacinto in the nude. God, I wonder what they would say about Pablo Schreiber's Master Chief, a.k.a. Buttface. They probably were thirsting after him. The same soys would tell you that you are evil and sick for thirsting after J-Lo's ass. Dude, you did not like Atlas. You did not like Atlas. You just like J-Lo. That's all that was. Just admit it, stop you. Hey, you just like J-Lo. You are not thirsting at. You didn't like that movie. That movie was dumb. It was dumb. Anthony says Attack of the Killer Tomatoes is Oscar worthy compared to this dung heap. Well, the difference is Attack of the Killer Tomatoes knows what it is. Like it's a thing called self-awareness. So actually, parody or loose parody, so to speak. So in other words, something that's tongue-in-cheek, but it's not full-blown parody, can be very fun. Deadpool is basically that. Deadpool is tongue-in-cheek. It knows what it is. It takes itself relatively seriously, but it's also kind of making fun of itself. That works. That requires something called talent and self-awareness. Two things that no one associated with this show, at least in the writing department, it has. Now, Starfury wants us to know that there isn't enough thirst tweets in the universe to assuage his hatred for the Acolyte. The funny thing about it is, I hated Ahsoka. Full-blown. I hated Ahsoka. And I hated Secret Invasion. Secret Invasion character assassinated Nick Fury and really the entire MCU. It undid the entire Avengers storyline completely. And I'm not going to get into it, but if you've been watching this channel, you know my reasons for that. Because the scroll was that was hate. That was hate that I felt for that show. Ahsoka, same deal, because I liked the Clone Wars series until, I'm so burnt out on Disney Star Wars. I'm like, you know what? Disregard the Clone Wars. I don't even give a shit about all that crap anymore. There are 6 Star Wars films and the extended universe. That's it. I don't care about anything else. But that being said, when I saw it, I liked the Clone Wars. And I liked Ahsoka's character. And I especially liked the ending with her, how she escaped Order 66 and how she left the Jedi. I thought that was all really well done. And so when I see this show where you have Ray Stevenson playing Baylan Skoll, who's if nothing else, the force of the actor's personality makes him interesting. You have Admiral Thrawn from the Heir to the Empire series, a chess-playing non-Force user who can beat Force users tactically. That's fascinating. Fascinating. Then you have Ahsoka, who in the Clone Wars was an interesting character. And what do they do with it? It is a pile of absolute trash. I hated that show for that reason, because it was a show that had great potential and it was squandered. I don't even know why anyone defends that show. I hear people kind of tepidly defending that show as I think, Ryan Kinel kind of defended, not totally, but a little bit. There were some interesting things. No, that show was slop. Nothing was well written in that. It's just like The Acolyte. The Ahsoka is just like The Acolyte. The dialogues contradict themselves. There's no sense of time and place. The plot is complete convenience. None of the characters are well drawn or have any clear motivations. So to me, there's no difference in the writing quality between Acolyte and Ahsoka. Maybe it's a shade worse in Acolyte. But I hated that show, Ahsoka, because of the wasted potential. Acolyte, I don't have that feeling at all. I don't actually hate the show. It's trash. It's a waste of time. This show is nothing. It's nothing. Nothing is happening in this show. There are no actual characters in this show. There is no mystery in this show. There is no plot in this show. There is no adventure in this show. There is nothing in this show that has anything to say whatsoever. This show is too stupid to exist without 2 words: Star Wars. Without that name, it is nothing. There are no shills. There are no clapping seals. Nobody cares. There are no critics' reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. It is a pile of trash. Everyone forgets about it. like that. Just like they did with Rebel Moon. Rebel Moon, 2 movies based on a failed Star Wars script, but it was not titled Star Wars. If Zack Snyder's insane fever dream, Rebel Moon, were in fact a Star Wars story, same exact story, they're defending grain, except it's with Jedi and lightsabers. These shills would be going crazy over it. The Access media would be writing all these defense pieces about how Zack Snyder's a genius and he's so progressive, and how Korra is such an amazing character in the galaxy far, far away, and how awesome it is. You know, they just would be going on and on and on. They'd be writing reams and reams of articles just talking about how toxic the Star Wars fans are. But because it doesn't have the name, nobody cares. It was a pile of trash. Everyone saw it and forgot about it. And that's it. That's it. So I have no ill will towards the Acolyte, because that would be like being angry at empty space. And don't misunderstand. I am not criticizing you in any way. I am simply saying this is how I feel when I watch it. I feel like I'm watching nothing. In the most literal sense of the word, I feel that I'm watching nothing. Nothing of consequence, nothing of meaning at all. So how can I hate something that effectively is empty space? As far as I'm concerned, it's empty space. The only thing that's fun about it is making fun of it. Like, it's like, oh, look at this. The only reason that there's any attention on this show is because the wackos are out there trying to make something out of it. These wackos are happy because they're getting their weird Tumblr fantasies made into a Star Wars show. That's all. That's all it is. What else? I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying that's how I. That totally valid. It's, if you hate this show, it is totally valid. Totally valid to hate it. Yeah, it's a weird thing, because in order for me to hate it, I feel like hatred is the inverse of love, is it not? You know, I think the foundation of hatred is love, as odd as that sounds. You wind up, it starts out as love and then it turns into hate somehow. And in my case, the reason to hate The Last Jedi, for example, is what it did to Luke Skywalker, which is a character I love. Dude, you know, the thing about it is, I love the ending of Return of the Jedi. That showdown with Luke and Vader is one of the most powerful, awesome, incredible, emotional resolutions to a story ever. Like, it's one of the greatest things I've ever seen in a story. That throne room battle where Luke redeems his father and his father destroys the Emperor. It's one of the greatest things. It gives me chills every time I watch it. That's love. So when I see Luke Skywalker turned into a loser drinking green titty milk, that is the foundation for hate. That's why I would hate. That's why I hate The Last Jedi. I don't feel that with The Acolyte. There's nothing to love to begin with. I didn't want this show. I didn't want anything about it. I wasn't curious what was going on 100 years before The Phantom Menace. Was anybody curious? I wasn't. You know what I mean? I don't care. I don't care what's happening 100 years before The Phantom Menace. I don't care what's happening 200 years or 500 years before The Phantom Menace. Certainly not in the hands of these wackos. Starfury, he says, the truth finally comes out. J-Lo's ours for an Emmy. I knew it, Starfury. I knew it. Fu Man Blue says, thought you said enemy. LOL. J-Lo's ass as the antagonist. Anthony, I can't say that. I can't put that on the screen. This is a family show. Not really. Star Fury says, I didn't even read, I didn't pre-read this either, so I'm always taking a risk with Star Fury. So I watched one of the worst 1980s Conan movie knockoffs, Deathstalker, on Friday night, and it was more coherent and had better dialogue and effects than The Acolyte. Also, lots of great TNA titties, as it were, as well. Well, what else do we have in the stack of stuff, my dear friends? I want to talk about The Boys a little bit. Interestingly enough, I've stopped watching the show because, once again, I'm tired of watching shows where nothing is happening. And which reminds me, I have a bone to pick with House of the Dragon, and we'll get to that as well. But allow me to share this piece from Cosmic Book News. Share screen. Hat tip Cosmic Book News by Matt McGloin. The Boys Season 4 Episode 6 review, Eric Kripke's Woke Wet Dream. Featuring versions of Batman and Spider-Man in an overly drawn-out episode with, and I can't stress this enough, zero story progression. Zero story progression, which is the problem with The Boys, okay? Following a great last episode, I didn't see it and I doubt it. Unfortunately, The Boys takes another dip with Season 4's Episode 6, Dirty Business. The episode is really drawn out, I think he means. I think that's a typo. The episode is really drawn out for the sake of shock value, which comes off as more poor writing. It's as if the showrunners of House of the Dragon, The Acolyte, and The Boys all got together and made sure their episodes released this week were about a whole bunch of nothing happening and dicks. I 100% agree with this. I completely agree with this. Nothing will happen this week. Just to depart the topic for just a second here, because House of the Dragon comes up, and I want to bring this up. I'm very frustrated with this show right now. Now, on the one hand, this is kind of par for the course. Game of Thrones has always been this way. You get episodes that are set up and a little bit of filler, and then it builds to something awesome. I'm hoping that's the trajectory here. I'm trusting that that's the trajectory here. However, I don't feel it's necessary in the case of House of the Dragon. I feel that in the first season, the third episode, cool shit happened. I believe that was the episode where Daemon takes out the crab feeder, which was pretty rad and a pretty awesome, and, things were happening, right? And here's the clue that gives it away. At the end of season 1 of House of the Dragon, the final episode is about, spoilers for House of the Dragon season 1, just in case. The end of it is basically Rhaenyra being faced with a war. Her crown has been stolen from her, and she is now under threat of death by the Greens, right? And so the question is she going to launch her attack? But she doesn't. She decides, no, this can't be right. Alicent, my dear childhood friend, she wouldn't do this. Something's not right here. We have to make peace. And the whole arc of the episode is about her trying to build her strength while finding a way to keep the peace. Then her son gets chomped by Aemon on his dragon, somewhat accidentally. But essentially, it results in her son being murdered by the Greens. And the end of the final shot, the final image of season 1 is Rhaenyra receiving the heartbreaking news of her son's death, and then tears turn into resolve, and then a steel gaze, and she gazes at the camera with anger and fade to black. And I liked that. I liked it. Why? Because the message is clear. A promise has been made, and the promise is the character is now resolved. It's war now. It's war. Episodes 1 and 2 of the Acolyte, House of the Dragon, season 2 begin. And the first episode is what? Rhaenyra is wandering. She's wandering the world looking for the remains of her son. Understandable. She's totally abandoned her post. She's basically allowing her, kingdom, such as it is, to be run in absentia. And she finds the remains of her son. It's the proof she desperately needs that it's true. And it's a touching and moving scene. She comes back and all of her counselors who have been governing without her leadership for all this time, like, my queen, what do you want us to do? And she doesn't say anything. She doesn't tend to any of her responsibilities. She just says immediately, I want Aemon Targaryen. I want him dead. And then she walks out of the room, right? And you're thinking, yep, now she's finally resolved. She went on her vision quest. She went on her journey. She's come back. She's resolved. Then we get the son for a son in the next episode. She finds out that this has happened. And we have Rhaenys once again talking her out of action. And once again, she's waffling on whether or not she wants to fight a war. We have now had it twice established that she is resolved, right? I'm saying it's implied in the performance and in the setup and the buildup and just the payoff, right? Twice we have seen Rhaenyra reach a resolution of action, immediately followed by non-action, and immediately followed by her wanting to make peace. In this third episode of season 2, she once again attempts to make peace with Alicent. What is the final image of episode 3, season 2, The Burning Mill? It is Rhaenyra after, having her parlay with Alicent and finding that, it was all a mistake. Viserys did not change the line of succession. However, Alicent doesn't care and is going to persist with the war, and there's no peace to be made. And what do we see? We see Alicent smoldering with hurt and pain and anguish, but then resolution in her eyes, and she glares at the camera with a steely gaze. It's war, don't you know? House of the Dragon, you are on the bubble. You're on the frickin' bubble. I'm tired of this. This is like Thor fighting himself all over again. This is stupid writing because you've just 3 times established the exact same character beat. That's not good writing, folks. And it's subtle. It's easy to miss. I didn't quite catch it. I kind of had to think about it for a couple of days. And then when I thought about it, I'm like, they've done this to us 3 times. If they do it a 4th time, I'm going to be pretty close to done with this show. Now, that being said, there's a lot to love about House of Dragon and a lot I do love. However, I don't understand why this show is failing to deliver on the promise of the premise. That's the problem. You cannot deny the promise of the premise. We had a whole season building up this war. We need to have the promise of the premise. Now, returning to The Boys, it's the same problem writ large, which is every episode is withholding the promise of the premise. So now let's return to this article. Although Neutron Pack is in the chat and says the end of The Boys episode 6 is funny and great acting. I don't deny that at all. I don't deny that. There are entertaining vignettes within The Boys, although I'm telling you, they're much fewer and farther between lately. But there are little scenes that are kind of fun, like Homelander torturing the people that created him. That's a fun scene. That's not a story. Anthony Starr is brilliant as the character, but his character arc in this season is non-existent. They're not actually advancing a story. What it is it's melodrama. That's my problem with it. It's just mulching over things we kind of already know. It's like look, dude, how many love scenes do we need to have with Frenchie and his boyfriend before we understand that they're in love? You know what I'm saying? My issue is that it's not advancing the story. That's the problem with it. It would be no different if it were him and what's-her-name together, and it was every scene. Frankly, I hate all the scenes with Huey and Frenchie's ex-girlfriend. I hate all those scenes because they're always mulching over her past and how sad she is about her past. And it's like, we know all of this. I don't want to see any more of that. Okay, so that's the problem with it. Fu Man Blue says, when you play your applause, your voice drops to near nil at Swords. You know what? I know why. Thank you for reminding me. It's because I put on the audio filter, and when I do the audio filter, for StreamYards does this. It cuts off your voice, and I totally forgot about that. So I will keep that in mind. It's for the echo cancellation. It's a stopgap. I hope to not have to use that next show. Anthony says, Game of Thrones foreshadowing 101. I mean, listen, Anthony, I have a lot of patience for this. I did in the first season, but I think there is a fair argument to be made that episodes 1 and 2, pretty good, did a lot of setup. Episode 3 of House of the Dragon was pretty much a nothing burger, as far as I'm concerned. I just think that, yes, I enjoyed Daemon taking Harrenhal, and I thought there's a lot of, I do love the kind of haunting of Harrenhal. I think that's all really fascinating. And I do sense that there's definitely going to be some shit going down. My problem is, it's sloppy writing to me to 3 times retread the same character beat with Rhaenyra, and specifically because what it's doing is it's It's restraining the plot from moving forward. And I'm not saying the show is bad and I hated the episode. There was nothing good in it. I'm saying that it's a problem that's on my radar. And, you know, I think the show has already done enough establishing. It's done enough foreshadowing. It's time to put your money where your mouth is. That's how I feel towards the show right now. So look. I'm a snooty, picky asshole. Okay, there's just no getting around that. It's why I have a YouTube channel. There it is. It's the truth, man. I try to be nice. I do. Listen, I want to love these things. I'm chomping at the bit. Now, I will say this. Even when the scene is not, even when the show is maybe not moving towards a massive battle or anything, it's not even really a battle that I'm wanting exactly. It's like I'm wanting to see the clash of the characters. I'm wanting to see some real stakes, right, on the table. And but that being said, I am enjoying the hell out of a lot that's going on. Like the character work is still, with the exception of the Rhaenyra thing, you know, the constant retread of that character beat. The character work in House of the Dragon is great, and I'm enjoying quite a bit of it. I'm chomping at the bit here. It's time to move things forward. So something better happened tonight. Neutron Pack says the boys have a cap in storytelling, but at least they're ending with season 5, so something will happen soon. Too little, too late, as far as I'm concerned. I gave this show, I liked the first season. Second season was a big drop off. Third season, I'm like, uh-oh, the fix is in. They're swindling me. They are swindling me with the promise of a premise they will not deliver on. And season 4, I think, has been awful. I cannot believe how boring every scene is. I don't care about Huey. I don't care about Frenchie. I don't care about his ex-girlfriend and all of her problems. I barely even care about Homelander at this point. I cannot stand it. Anthony says until season 7 and 8, and then the wheels come off of the cart in Game of Thrones. Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like the end of season 6, where I think it's season 6, where Daenerys is on the ship and she's heading for Westeros, and you kind of had a resolution to a lot of things at that. That actually is a point where the show can end. It's not a great ending, but I think it's actually the most satisfying conclusion that you ever will get, because it implies that she's, in many ways, all of the quests, the character arcs have kind of been resolved at the end of season 6, I would argue. So that kind of tracks. Now, returning to the article, right? So again, the author of the article, that would be Matt McGloin of Cosmic Book News, with his review of episode 6 of season 4 of The Boys, says it's as if the showrunners of House of the Dragon, The Acolyte, and The Boys all got together and made sure their episodes released this week were about a whole bunch of nothing happening and dicks. Oh, I love this. Under the caption to this picture of Homelander, less like Trump and more like a certain other president who can't take care of himself. Quote, all we learned in this entire episode is that Homelander has plans for internment camps. That's it. Folks, this should have been the end of episode 1. Of season 4 of The Boys should have been Homelander unveiling his plans for internment camps. That should have been the end of episode 1. And I would challenge you, if you think I'm being too unfair to this show, go back and watch really good shows. Watch Deep Space Nine. The first episode of Deep Space Nine, season 6. All the stakes are on the table by the end of that episode. Go watch pretty much any first episode of Star Trek, and it establishes the stakes. Watch the first episode of season 3 of Enterprise, right? Which that is a whole season arc in which the Xindi are threatening to destroy Earth. All the stakes are on the table by the end of that first episode. I'm just telling you that it's a lost art form in TV storytelling. Look at the first episode of Firefly. I recently rewatched the first episode of Firefly. Everything you need to know about what Mal has lost, about what he's up against with the inner worlds, about River showing up on his ship, and there's government agents after her. I mean, all of it. The criminals that he has to deal with. You know, he's got kind of a reputation with criminals that have tried to kill him. All of that is established in the first episode of Firefly. So what I'm saying is that this is sloppy writing. Returning to the article, yeah, we also learned Butcher only sees Jeffrey Dean Morgan's Kessler in his head. When I'm like, seriously? Oh, what an eye roll. But that was already guessed by some fans. So basically what's going on is that Kessler plays the devil, and Becca, who he's also hallucinating, snore, who cares, is playing the angel to Butcher's conscience. Where was I? Regarding Homelander, he's a complete moron who can't do anything for himself. Ironically, it's Kripke's version of Donald Trump, but Homelander actually comes off like a certain president who can't do anything for himself. Now, I find this fascinating. The wokies, it's bizarre. They always project. They always project on perceived enemies. First of all, shit that isn't true of who they're talking about, but they're totally unaware is true of them. It's like, you're the one you've got a guy in the White House, can't do anything. You can't get through 190-minute debate. In any case. But Homelander actually comes off like a certain president who can't do anything for himself. He got his butt wiped. Then Homelander is sucking off the teat of Firecracker. Eye roll. Eye roll. The episode features versions of Batman, and in parentheses, and Robin, and Spider-Man. So Mother's Milk goes to Webweaver to get his suit so Huey can wear it to the party. Well, Webweaver is some kind of junkie or some shit. Well, they show Mother's Milk shooting Webweaver up the ass. Wait, what? Webweaver passes out. So why didn't they just trank Webweaver and grab his suit? Or was Webweaver supposed to be another informant a la A-Train? Instead, we're treated to ass shots just for the sake of showing ass shots. You'll note that there is no female TNA in the series at all in a show called The Boys that has an audience made up of likely 90% males. Kripke got you again. A word about Mother's Milk, too. He suffers a panic attack. What the frack? I thought that was lame, and the character has become castrated and lost all of his badassery and testosterone from previous seasons. Folks, there's basically no testosterone in this show. I love Carl Urban. I love the character of Billy Butcher as he existed in the first season. He is completely deballed in this season. He even gets spooged on in this episode. Let me guess, it's Kripke's take on Andrew Tate? Speaking of ass, now it's on to Tech Knight, who has a fetish for holes. Oh, that's right. I did like Tech Knight in Gen V. Tech Knight is supposed to be the world's greatest detective, yet he doesn't realize that Huey, chained to the GIMP machine in the dungeon, is that Chris Evans' basement, doesn't have a hole to shoot spider webs. Even though Tech Knight never met Webweaver before, he certainly knows Webweaver has a spider web hole. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been interested. If Tech Knight knew all along it wasn't the real Webweaver, it didn't come off that way. The scene also went on way too long. I will say the safe word being Zendaya was rather another obvious dig at the MCU. You know, this is interesting because I think Gen V probably had better writers. I'm not sure, but I suspect it did because Tech Knight actually is pretty interesting as a detective in Gen V. Resuming with the article. Okay, so how about this? Huey basically gets tortured, sexually assaulted, and nearly raped. Starlight asks if he's okay, as if nothing happened. This is the same Starlight who was sexually assaulted by the Deep. Who writes this? See, exactly. It's like this one-sided, it's bizarre. It's as if they're completely blind to the inverse of all the things they despise. You know, the male gaze on women, sexualization, objectification of women, the sort of trivialization of sexual assault. Remember how Game of Thrones, they were all on Dan and Dave for this. The wackos, the knives were out for Dan and Dave because of how often they were showing women being assaulted in Game of Thrones. The fun now it's the exact same thing with men. They're being objectified. They're in the nude. They're being ogled. They're being assaulted, and it's like the exact opposite. They have no awareness of it. Open quote. Or how about in an interview with Variety where Kripke said the dungeon scene is hilarious? Let me guess. It's because it's a white dude that it's happening to. Welcome to Clown World, or as I would say, the sick woke worldview. This show has fallen from being a fun and entertaining superhero parody and satire to showrunner Eric Kripke's woke, wet dream, where the story is thrown out to satiate Kripke's agenda against Trump and right-wingers. Let's be honest, it's not going to change jack shit. There are only 2 episodes left of this season, and there hasn't been much story progression from the previous seasons. Maybe we're lucky if season 5 is the last. And I would wholeheartedly agree. That would be the review from, okay, let me get to the top here. Matt McGloin of Cosmic Book News, a hat tip and a captain's salute to a great piece. I'm not saying that I think House of the Dragon is going down this road, but it is disappointing that the last episode was kind of a letdown. But we'll see. You know, there's still a lot of episodes to go, and there were some great payoffs. But yeah, Staffyari says the best lightsaber battle in Star Wars was Luke versus Vader in The Empire Strikes Back. Vader is playing with Luke until Luke gets a hit, and then all hell breaks loose, and Luke gets pulverized. Yeah, you know what's interesting about that is, I kind of hear chatter or people saying that, like, I've heard people say they hate the scene in Rogue One where Vader just like torches all the guys with the lightsaber, because then it sort of makes you wonder why he's not doing that in A New Hope. And it's like, that doesn't really bother me, because the way I see it is, number one, it's on the meta level. It just, you know, it was a different time. The budget was different. The special effects weren't quite as good, although I'd argue they've declined under Disney Star Wars. But in any case, you know, they just didn't have as good a choreography. It wasn't. However, at the non-meta level, at the in-story level, I sort of view it as it's a chess game. I played like a clip last week of what I consider to be one of the best sword fights in all of cinema history, and that would be in Rob Roy with Liam Neeson versus Tim Roth character. And they have this amazing sword fight, but a lot of that scene is them kind of staring at each other, circling, planning their next move, kind of waiting for their opening, which is very hyper-realistic, you know, because really a sword fight is a chess game. Any fight, any one-on-one martial arts fight, it's a chess match, right? And so it's a high-speed chess match. And I think you can view the original trilogy of Star Wars in that light. And so it doesn't really bother me that you see Vader as a monster mowing down all these guys, but then when he's facing a Jedi, and not just any Jedi, but his old master, it's a chess match. And so I agree with you. I don't know if I would say that's my favorite lightsaber fight, but I would say that it's definitely awesome. I think actually I think the best lightsaber fight in terms of choreography, I think, is always going to be Darth Maul versus Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan for me. It just, nothing beats that scene. It's so good. From a choreography perspective, that's probably my favorite Star Wars lightsaber fight ever. But I would say from a, you know, story-driven, you know, tension, like just from the story level, I think my favorite fight is Return of the Jedi between Luke and Vader. It's so awesome, so powerful, it's so epic. You know, the whole idea of like Vader trying to lure out his emotions and get him to fight, that was just great. And then, of course, the moment when Luke is chopping off his father's hand and he looks at his own hand and realizes what he's becoming, like, that's fantastic. So I think story-wise, Return of the Jedi is my favorite, but just choreography-wise, Ray Park as Darth Maul was unbelievable. So cool seeing that double-edged lightsaber. Fu Man Blue agrees with you, Staffyari. That was great in Empire Strikes Back, which is my favorite Star Wars film, Empire Strikes Back. It is such a great, epic journey across the galaxy. It's one of the reasons I love it. Would I say that's a Golden Fleece story? The first Star Wars film is definitely a Golden Fleece story. Second film, I would say it could. I think you could make a case. It's a Golden Fleece story because it's a quest to escape the Empire. But I would almost say that Han Solo's story in that is kind of a dude with a problem story, because they've lost the Battle of Hoth. They're on the run. It's a life or death battle. So I think it's actually kind of a Golden Fleece story for Luke, and it's a dude with a problem story for Han Solo and the gang and Princess Leia. So overall, it's kind of both. It's kind of, there's two arcs in there. And then the third film, I would say, is a superhero story because it's about Luke facing the Emperor and Vader. So there you go. That's my take on it. What else in the chat? I think I caught everything. And I definitely think you're right, Neutron Pack, that the cap, that, you know, there's a ceiling in The Boys, which is a huge flaw in the story. I would argue it's only really interesting as a story, right? I mean, yes, there's little scenes that are fun, and I definitely like some of the comedy in The Boys. To this day, I think there's still great moments, like the Soups doing weird shit is kind of funny no matter what you do. But I think that it's only a really satisfying story when it's about Butcher and the boys versus Homelander. And by extension, Homelander's minions, which are the second tier and the third tier Soups that they have to fight. And I think season 1 is the only season that effectively captured that. I feel like ever since then, The Boys is kind of just this melodrama that's delaying the inevitable. And I just feel like a writer like Vince Gilligan, for example, of Breaking Bad, would have the ability to weave a storyline that was satisfying on the way to that climactic showdown. And I just think these writers do not have the talent for that. And I think part of it is they're very distracted by their TDS. That would be Trump derangement syndrome. They have a wacko paranoid delusion about what they think right-wingers are, which is actually closer to what they are than what right-wingers are. But because they have all these paranoid fantasies about what right-wingers are doing and what they wish to do and all this crap, the idea that basically MAGA people would cheer if Trump could laser people to death at a whim, the fact that that's what they think right-wingers are shows more about them than I think anything about right-wingers. But because they are so trapped and obsessed with that paranoia, they seem to be forgetting what the premise of the show is. And that's why it just isn't interesting. It just isn't. They should just end it. They should just end it. Have it be Homelander. I don't understand why they can't pull this off. I think good writers could pull this off. Have Homelander, episode 1 of season 4, he's opening up the internment camps. It is all hands on deck. This is it. We are in the descent into hell. And I think the end of season 4 should be, we see New York burning, like just in ruins. And Homelander has lasered everything. Dude, you know what? Actually, there is a show that did this very well. Guillermo del Toro. It's called The Strain. It's based on his novel. It's basically, so it begins, dude, actually, this is a show that would be the template for The Boys, okay? It's called The Strain. It begins with, it starts out as a kind of CDC pandemic procedural, ironically, well before, the coup. And basically the strain is a disease that turns you into a vampire. So it's a kind of like science fiction explanation of vampirism. And it's pretty interesting. But it does have some of the myth of the vampires weaved into it. But the short of the long is, if you get bit by a vampire, you are infected with a virus that turns you into one, and then you go and infect them. So it begins with this character played by Corey Stoll, who is a CDC guy who is dispatched to a quarantine of a plane. There is a plane that has just arrived and it's been quarantined because something's going on. They think a contagion has got loose. And what happens is some of the people infected wind up going home and they start infecting others. Now, in the first season, the story is all about containing the strain. And you think that the show is going to be about containing the spread of the disease and that every season is going to be about this battle. But what happens is the strain escapes and it gets wider. And then you think, well, the show must be over now because the strain is running amok. No, it then becomes a kind of civilization trying to hold on. There's a whole subplot with a congresswoman who is organizing Long Island to be like a safe zone. And there's this whole thing about a power struggle and the infected vampire politicians are trying to unseat her. And then she fails. She fails, and the vampires totally are running it wild. And you're thinking, well, that's kind of the end of the show now, because now vampires are spreading everywhere and there's no containment. And then one of the vampires detonates, they detonate a bunch of nuclear bombs and create an artificial winter, which allows a kind of permanent night. So it becomes a full-blown post-apocalyptic battle with vampires running the world in like season 4. And then the final season is the epic showdown with the master and the attempt to kill all vampires before they consume the world. So it goes from CDC contagion procedural to pandemic battle to a kind of civilization trying to like make its last desperate fight to survive, to a full-blown Mad Max post-apocalyptic world, to a massive nuclear detonation, to a climactic heroes versus villains battle with the master. In like 5 seasons. You could do that with Homelander. You could do that with The Boys. Go watch The Strain and you'll see a much better picture of how a show like this should progress. So my issue is not that the show is woke. It is. It's not that it's suffering from the truly deranged Trump derangement syndrome. It is. My issue with the show is Guillermo del Toro pulled this off better with a vampire story, and it's awesome. It's awesome. It's called The Strain. Check it out. You like it. So yeah, there you go. Anthony says, I have not seen a single episode of House of the Dragon. Well, I hate to spoil it for you, Anthony, but it's worth the watch. It is, even with the spoilers. At least HBO knows how to spin a good yarn. Now, what else do we have in the stack of stuff? I did find this article kind of interesting, and I wanted to pull this up. So speaking of, just bad writers who are not good at what they do and shouldn't be doing it, let's take a look at how good writers do it, shall we? Hat tip, Bounding Into Comics. This, from Bounding Into Comics, Toho, that as in Toho Studios, has a Godzilla room, laying down rules for respecting their property in every iteration, by J.B. Augustine. Oh, I love Godzilla -1. Best film of 2024, and honestly, it's probably going to be the best film of the decade, the way things are going. Quote, there are means for respecting canons and the integrity of characters dwelling within them. For instance, we've heard of show Bibles, and we've covered show Bibles. We covered the Battlestar Galactica Bible on this very show. In fact, I should show you the Stranger Things series Bible as well. It's awesome. It is awesome. But in any case, resuming with the article, we've heard of show Bibles, but they don't always work how they're supposed to, or the way fans assume they should. Nothing seems to prevent Hollywood from taking liberties with the established lore of Tolkien, Lucas, Marvel, The Witcher, or DC, just to name a few. That is, unless they're dealing with Toho and their cash kaiju Godzilla. The Japanese studio, much like the rest of their country's content Americans enjoy, exists in a bubble, may it long remain, cut off, immune from the whims and the wokeness of our film industry. I editorialized a little bit there. Oh my God. Is that not a glorious picture on the screen? Dude, that is, I hands down, one of the most iconic scenes in a film I've ever seen. And this is an image of the boat, the Minesweeper boat that Shikishima and his friends are on in the film Godzilla -1, and they're being pursued by Godzilla in the ocean. I mean, it's just amazing. It's one of the best chases in a film ever. It's unbelievable. It's so good. I love it. I might watch it again tonight. Resuming with the article, if you want to play with them, you have to play by their rules, meaning woke Hollywood. And they have a few. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. If you want to play with them, meaning Toho Studios and Godzilla, you have to play by their rules. And they have a few for their giant dinosaur. Dinosaur is not the word I would use, but in any case, in fact, they have an office whose job is to make sure that the big guy is respected on screens at home and abroad. Toho's Godzilla room came to be in the shadow of Shin Godzilla, and which is another great film, and oversees every project to protect the brand. And to do this, they enforce strict criteria for filmmakers. The Room's director, Soya Yoshikawa, explained in an interview with Live Door that there were two specific mandates Godzilla -1 and Godzilla X Kong had to abide by above all. Some of the big rules are that Godzilla never dies and that Godzilla does not prey on people or things. We checked these things from the script stage for Godzilla -1 as well. The same goes for the Hollywood version, said Yoshikawa via MovieWeb. You know, it's funny. I was watching, close quote for a second. I was watching this film with a normie, and there was a scene where, Godzilla's it was Godzilla -1, and he's attacking Tokyo, and someone said, wait, doesn't he eat people? And I was like, no, that's King Kong. Godzilla doesn't eat people. Is it King Kong even? I'm assuming it's King Kong, but actually, now that I think about it, I'm not 100% sure. But in any case, I know Godzilla doesn't eat people. And it's funny to me that like normies kind of have that misconception that he does. But resuming with the article, open quote, managing the film by clarifying agreements and principles rather than just going by intuition also leads to the credibility of the film, he added. And that would be Yoshikawa. Hollywood, dang ads. They always screw up my... Hang on a second. Let me see if I can kill this ad. Ugh. That's so frustrating, bounding into comics. That I really wish that they would fix that. But in any case, man, where was I? Hollywood could learn from this level of care, although it's nothing new from Toho's playbook. In the mid-90s, they had a veritable encyclopedia of requests that they gave Roland Emmerich when making his 98 adaptation. He ignored them and freely made a film he didn't want to do. Very few were happy with that finished product, including Toho executives. Dude, that would be the Matthew Broderick 1998 Godzilla, which was nothing like Godzilla. How satisfied they are with every aspect of Godzilla X Kong and -1 remains a mystery. You can't watch those movies and say Godzilla did not prey on anything beyond a reasonable doubt. But as long as they made money, right? In any case, I just find this fascinating that Toho Studios has a room dedicated to preserving the rules of Godzilla. Gojira! This is something that the MCU and Disney Lucasfilm do not have. Although what I would say is Lucasfilm, I think they do kind of have an unspoken Bible, which is whatever the woke wackos want, the woke wackos get. Not Neutron. I got that one. Anthony Timmons says Godzilla -1 was Godzilla done to perfection. It was so exceptional. As I said at the time, that film flies to its target like an arrow. You know, I always say that like when you're watching bad writing, you will, if you're kind of aware of it, you will start to notice a feeling of unease and anxiety. It's kind of brewing, and usually that's because things are clashing. Characters are doing things that you don't think the character would do. It's all over the Acolyte, for example. It's all over The Boys for me. And so you start to get this anxiety. And what I think that is it's the subconscious human mind rejecting, the illusion. Because the whole thing about fiction, whether it's a novel, a film, a play, you want the suspension of disbelief. You want reality to disappear, and you want the illusion to become immersive. That's the whole point. It's immersion. And bad plots, inconsistent characters, plot contrivances destroy the illusion. And that creates anxiety. When you're watching an excellent film like Godzilla -1, it's like all of that goes away. There's no anxiety other than the in-world anxiety of like, how's he going to defeat Godzilla? That, I'm not talking about that. That's tension. I consider that a different thing. That's being afraid for the character. That's not uncomfortable anxiety. That's tension. And that's what we want. And so it's just amazing how effortless it is. Think of your favorite movie, the movie you've watched 100 times, whatever it is for you. you know that that's an effortless experience. Every time you watch it, it just feels easy to watch. And in fact, sometimes you don't even mean to watch it. You're just watching a scene because it's on TV and you can't stop, and you wind up watching the whole thing. I have that experience all the time with movies like Terminator, Aliens. If those movies are on, or The Predator, or Lord of the Rings, or Titanic, don't judge me, bro. I can't help it. I wind up watching the whole damn thing. Master and Commander. Let's get a more masculine nautical story in there. Although I would argue Titanic is an excellent nautical film. It's got a captain going down with the ship. It's got officers making hard decisions. It's got a naval architect deciding to go down with his own creation that failed all these people. It's a great nautical film. It's a maritime film, Titanic. And yes, you've got Jack and Rose and the whole sweeping melodrama. And I'm not denying I like that either. Stone Cold Titanic simp over here. Skunk's Workshop says Gojira named their brand after how they Godzilla. King Theoden goes down with the ship. LOL, that's right. That's right. The actor who plays King Theoden, his name escapes me at the moment, is the actor who brilliantly plays the captain of the Titanic. By the way, if you see a real picture of the captain of the Titanic, he looks just like the actor in that film. It's pretty scary. Dude, Victor Garber as the naval architect who built the Titanic. I love that character in the film. I love it when he's having that interaction with Rose, and he's kind of just like playing with the clock on the mantle, and the ship is kind of tipping. It's going down, and he tells Rose, he's like, make sure you get to a lifeboat. Don't wait. Remember what I told you about the boats. You remember what I told you about the boats, Rose? And she's like, yes, I remember. And then she's like, won't you at least make a try for it, Mr. Andrews? And I just love how he's like, I forget what he says in that moment, but he's going to stay there. He's going to go down with the ship. That's fantastic. I love that ship. That's great. It's a great film. It's amazing too, because the string, what would you call it? I guess it's a quartet. I think it's a string quartet, isn't it? Anyway. So the musicians playing as the ship goes down, like, it's unbelievable, but that really happened. There's plenty in that movie that did not really happen, like the gates blocking the people. That was total fiction. So we should get Redoubt Productions on here to analyze it. I don't know if that's his area, historical man that he is, but maybe. But in any case, there were elements of the story, like Murdoch, the first officer, killing himself. That wasn't true. And in fact, the family of Murdoch were very unhappy with that scene in the movie of him killing himself, because that didn't happen. And they felt that sullied his memory. So there were inaccuracies in Titanic, but there's a stunning amount of accuracy in that film, especially the way the Titanic looks and feels is dead on accurate. Cameron went and found the original upholsterers of the White Star Line to recreate the furniture. He got the original companies to reproduce the china. Like, it's pretty amazing. So the way the Titanic looks is dead on accurate. And there definitely were a lot of the unsinkable Molly Brown, played by Kathy Bates, was a real character, and that's a true story. What you see of her in that movie. It's a lot of John Jacob Astor, who was like the Elon Musk of his era. He was like the richest man in the world. Okay, and you see him in the film. He's the one that says to Jack, "Oh, are you of the Boston Dawsons?" And he's like, "No, the Chippewa Falls Dawsons." Like, oh yes, that's John Jacob Astor, who really was like an Elon Musk of his era. Went down with the ship. It would be like Elon Musk dying in a plane crash. It'd be crazy. So yeah, there was a lot of historical accuracy, and I just totally derailed the entire stream to talk about Titanic. This is why I need to do the lore channel. You know what I'm saying? So keep a sharp eye out for that, chat. Now, moving on to the next in the stack of stuff. This is fascinating, my dear sailors and Starnauts. Did you know? Now, everyone is talking about how Wolverine and Deadpool is going to just slay the box office. It's going to make like $1 billion billions. Now, I'm okay with that because I'm pretty excited about the film. I tend to agree. I tend to think this film's going to crush it. But what's fascinating It may not crush it, folks. Let me share this with you. From Cosmic Book News, Deadpool and Wolverine box office opening tracking lower at 165 million. Don't believe the hype? The latest numbers are a lot lower than the earlier 200 million plus estimates. Now, this is interesting, folks. Now, what if this movie significantly underperforms? Dude, that would be... Think of how shocking that's going to be. Everyone agrees that this movie's going to crush it. It has to. It just has to. It's doing everything right. If it doesn't, I don't think it's going to flop. I don't think that's in the cards. But what if it just is kind of a soft performance? It doesn't do that well. I feel like that would send a sharp signal that, you know, Hollywood's reputation is so shattered as to be literally dragging down otherwise good films, assuming it is a good film. That, of course, also remains to be seen. As the article explains, according to a new report, the box office for Deadpool and Wolverine is now tracking lower for a $160 million, $165 million opening. That's a lot less than some estimates offering the film would open to $200 million, or maybe even more. Some estimates have also said $175 million or more. So it's slipping from 200 to or 175. It's slipping down to 165 million. Still a good opening. What could be happening is that the new estimate is more conservative, so that when the flick gets released and pops with a larger number, it'll make a good headline. On the flip side, and this is as I feared, says the article, it could mean the hype isn't all that surrounding Deadpool and Wolverine. I just said they're releasing cameo spoilers online ahead of time, which reminds me of what they did with Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam with Henry Cavill as Superman. We all know how that worked out. So if Deadpool and Wolverine is tracking lower and ticket sales aren't where they want them to be, and social media engagement isn't as high as thought, all the talk has been about James Gunn filming Superman. Now out comes all the spoilers. Minutes ago, I just saw a batch of Deadpool and Wolverine spoilers on my Twitter feed by some wannabe fan shill account, likely from that China fan screening that was held a month before the movie's release. It reeks of being desperate. Also recall how Disney fudged the numbers for the Deadpool and Wolverine Super Bowl trailer in an attempt to make it look bigger than Spider-Man. And as I said, the pre-sale tickets only sold half as much as Spider-Man No Way Home, which opened to $260 million in 2021. Now, that's a close quote. That's a fascinating point that he's calling out there. Spider-Man No Way Home opened to $260 million in 2021. That film blew the doors off, folks. It made like $2 billion. It was an absolute smash success. So what we're looking at is Wolverine and Deadpool kind of a lot softer. Only 165 million. That's fairly behind. Now, was it going to do Spider-Man No Way Home numbers? Probably not. But still, that puts it in perspective. I got to say, Wolverine in the comic book accurate costume, pretty rad. Pretty rad. I caught snippets of X2, X-Men 2 on TV yesterday, and I got to tell you, that movie is fantastic. Brian Cox as Stryker is awesome. There were some good X-Men films. Days of Future Past was excellent. Excellent. Open quote. It should be said, 160 to 165 million is still a good number, but out of the gate, Disney and the trades have been stating that Deadpool and Wolverine opening should be the biggest of 2024. It will be interesting to see what happens this weekend with Despicable Me 4 and if it can ride on the success of Inside Out 2, which hit $1 billion in 19 days, which is impressive. The week Deadpool and Wolverine opens also sees a bit of competition, as a lot of hardcore fans will be at Comic-Con, and it's also the start of the Summer Olympics. I find it hard to believe that comic book fans are going to miss Deadpool and Wolverine. Like, if they're into it, they're going to see it. They will see it. Deadpool and Wolverine opens July 26, directed by Sean Levy, starring Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. There you have it. Starfieri says, certain factions in Disney want Deadpool to tank because it would otherwise make all their previous efforts look even worse. So Starfury, you're saying that certain factions in Disney want Deadpool to... I don't think they could afford that. I don't think they could afford that at all because it would otherwise make all their previous efforts look even worse. Help me out with the reasoning here, Starfury. You're saying that like some of the wackos at Deadpool want, or at Disney want Deadpool to tank because it would make all their previous efforts look even worse? Do you mean that, like, for example, Lesbian Headlamp would like it? Let's make it more Marvel specific. You're saying that who is in charge of Echo? Like the writers of Echo, for example, would be happy if Deadpool tanked because it would make Echo look better? Is that what you're saying by comparison? Or maybe not as bad because look, Deadpool sucked too. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that Disney desperately needs this film to work. I think they need a win. They did get a big win with Inside Out, but the MCU needs a win. And Deadpool it's like the only card they have to play. So we'll see. Clarify your thoughts, Starfury, if you have time to do so. Because I'm intrigued by your idea. I'm just not sure I quite grasp what you're getting at. But I am intrigued. I wish to know more. Now, did I not have... Yes, I did have this article. So on the subject of Deadpool and Wolverine, Sean Levy, the director, had this to say. Hat tip bounding into comics. Deadpool and Wolverine director Sean Levy rejects the idea of cinematic superhero fatigue. Quote, people are way too quick to declare the last rites of the superhero genre, close quote, by Spencer Bakuli. Sip of water. Captain is getting parched. In adding his voice to the ongoing discourse, Deadpool and Wolverine director Sean Levy has dismissed the idea that general movie-going audiences are currently suffering from superhero fatigue. The seeming last hope to save the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it won't, from complete failure, offered his take on the superhero genre's current struggles while speaking with Entertainment Weekly's Nick Romano in promotion of the upcoming crossover film. Rather than delve straight into the topic, Levy began his thoughts by discussing the overall concept behind Deadpool and Wolverine, explaining, with the character of Wade, especially in combination with the character of Logan, I saw that story beyond the franchise value. You have Wade Wilson, who is like an impetuous motor-mouthed child in a superheroic man's body, and you have the laconic, largely nonverbal, gruff Logan, he told Romano. On the surface, they're completely different, which is what makes them a perfect comedic duo, close quote for a second. They're foils to each other. Joss Whedon was the master of this with things like Firefly, the Avengers film. Like, he was a master at finding the characters that were good foils to each other in certain situations, teaming up, having Thor fight the Hulk, right? Teaming up Iron Man with Captain America and having, Iron Man having his snarky, sarcastic attitude. And then you have Captain America and his sort of Wonder Bread personality. Like, that's why that works. That's what's called great storytelling and character work. Open quote, but they're both haunted by regret, the director added, and there's a darkness and a sadness and ultimately a solitude to both these heroes that makes them anti-heroes. Close quote. Now, I have to tell you something, folks. In the right hands, there's nothing wrong with this trope. However, and it could work well in this movie, I grant you. However, what does this sound like to you? This sounds like Jake Skywalker, old man Indiana Jones, used up Admiral Picard. That's what it sounds like to me. It's like this is the trope that has infested Hollywood. They're both haunted by regret. There's a darkness and a sadness. There's a solitude. They're anti-heroes. Now, for these characters, that's mostly, well, it definitely fits Deadpool, anti-hero. It can work. It can work. It's a bit of a red flag. That's all I'm saying. Open quote. From there, Levy delved into the film's myriad of cameos, explaining that while fans may be wary of such Easter eggs given their overuse in recent years, the Deadpool and Wolverine team did not want any of the cameos or characters to be the story of the movie. Quote, but they are peppered in throughout, Levy detailed. There's a lot of characters. The internet is a delight of rumors about the multitude of character cameos that are in this movie. Some rumors are true, and some are way off base. Wade himself is a fan, without giving anything away about the various universes the different characters live in, because he's in some ways a fawning motor-mouth little fanboy of himself. It allows the movie to call out and reference a ton of deep-cut Marvel references. I like the sound of that. In light of Levy's willingness to lean into these very genre trappings, which, thanks to a recent overabuse by lazy writers, have led to some audiences completely tapping out of superhero films altogether, the director then pressed by Romano for his thoughts on the concept of superhero fatigue. Quote, Marvel had some misses, Levy ultimately admitted, but people are way too quick to declare the last rites of the superhero genre. I don't buy into the fatigue narrative. As noted above, Levy is far from the first superhero creative to weigh in on the widely postulated theory for the genre's box office decline. I think I'm going to leave it there because I found this interesting, that Sean Levy, that is the director behind Deadpool and Wolverine, is basically saying he doesn't buy into it. I have to say, the over-the-hill, racked with regret superhero trope, while a red flag, could work. And actually, I think it could be super hilarious if they actually lean into it and they over-dramatize it, like they turn it into a melodrama about how over the hill and sad Wolverine is. That could actually be funny if they sort of parody it. But I have to say that I kind of agree with Levy on this. I don't think superhero fatigue, I feel like it goes away the moment that we get back to great storytelling. Because just watching a few clips of X2 the other day, I'm like, wow, these characters pop off the screen. The fight with Stryker trying to wipe out all mutants and the team of X-Men trying to get there before he can. It's great. It's fantastic. You feel swept along in the story. So this, I think the moment that you have talented people that are not woke wackos that start telling, as Dave Cullen points out, a politically neutral story, suddenly people are going to come back. Now, it may take time, but I believe that what we are suffering from is bad writing fatigue. That's just my opinion. Fu Man Blue, responding to Starfiere's theory that Disney want Deadpool to fail, says, which is weird when you think about it, Starfury, since our reaction should make them see how bad they look to us without any visual aid. Perhaps, Fu Man Blue. Indeed. I was going to watch the Kevin Costner film Horizon before this stream, but I was just too busy this weekend. I just could not get there. So, unfortunately, I haven't seen it. But I am curious what the reviews are like. Should we do the Horizon trailer? I've actually never seen the Horizon trailer. I'm hearing a lot of mixed reactions to this. Let's go for it. I'll have to keep a sharp eye on the back office just to make sure I don't get, a warning here. But let's go. So this is Horizon, an American Saga, the trailer. It's Kevin Costner's film.
You and I are standing guard in one of the last great open spaces. These people think that if you're tough enough, smart enough, and mean enough, all this will be there someday. There's no army of this earth that's going to stop those wagons coming. little as they're wanted.
Dude, I love that actor. What's his name that's speaking right now? Dude, he is fantastic. What do I remember him from? It's like right on the tip of my tongue, but let me just check, make sure I'm okay here. Everything looking good so far. I gotta say, I love the visuals. I love the tone. The music seems a bit odd given the subject matter, but resume. Dude, I love the action. It looks like super kinetic, super gritty. I'm into that.
Quick, come on. It's all right. I'm gonna be with Dad. No.
All I'm trying to do is get as many of us as I can, as far as I can.
You know what's fascinating is like they showed one shot of Kevin Costner, but they established nothing about his character. Oh, that's right. That actor, he played the German general in Wonder Woman. That's right. He was fantastic in that. Let me find his name real quick. And that first Wonder Woman film was fantastic. Where? Ludendorff, that's right, who was a real historical figure, by the way. Danny Huston. Danny Huston played Ludendorff. What else was he in? The Aviator. I think I vaguely remember him in that. What was he in? Oh, I did see him in Succession. I'm telling you, there's like some movie I'm just not thinking of. Oh, Frankenstein. That was a pretty good show. Kind of went off the rails. American Horror Story. The Axeman. He played the Axeman in American Horror Story season 3. I remember that. He was malevolent, terrifying. That was fantastic. Anyway, Danny Huston, great actor. Why is Kevin Costner? Why do we not know anything about his character yet? This is kind of weird.
I'd just like to have a drink tonight with someone that knows how to act.
Again, what? Nothing about his character. This is so weird. Great music, though.
You're not taking the full measure of this, Mary. I know the man I met was on his way to kill everyone in that house. He might as well have been walking up to get the mail for all it bothered him.
This is starting to feel cloying to me. Like, it's starting to feel a bit melodramatic. Like, it's kind of like it's almost like more like a music video of the Wild West and less of a story. You know, it's like, oh, we're just gonna remember all the things about Western films, Dances with Wolves, and Native Americans on the plain, and vast landscapes and canyons. And it's like, but what's the story? Like, what are we doing here? Some of it's pretty good. Like, I like the intensity of the family fleeing the burning cabin. That's pretty awesome. But it's very odd that the trailer's not really established. Trailers they've got to hook you. They've got to hook something in the story.
What you build, they will burn down.
You know what this strikes me as? This strikes me as much more of a miniseries. This feels like this should be a miniseries on HBO and not like a film.
You use that much this year?
Haven't had much need of it yet.
Looks like we got ourselves a bad man right here.
Now, based on that trailer, can you, that's the first time I've seen it, by the way. Can you even tell me whether Kevin Costner is playing like a good guy, a bad guy, an anti-hero, a classical hero, a lawman, an outlaw? I have no idea. Like, I have no idea what he is. And that's, is he like a Wyatt Earp? Is he like a William Money from Unforgiven? Like, I can't tell. I can't tell at all. He's a badass. I think that's clear. I mean, I'm pretty much good to go see it. Star Fury says, night, everyone. See you next week. Well, good night, Star Fury. Thank you for hanging out. I know it's late over there across the pond. Have a great night. Thanks for coming into the chat. Anthony says, Hollywood in general is becoming more and more clueless, and I agree. So let's take a look at the Rotten Tomatoes reviews on Horizon. I'm just curious. The captain is curious, if nothing else. I'm going to go see this movie, but it's fascinating. I'm always most interested to see a film. No. I'm most interested to see a film when everyone's raving about it. I'm like, okay, great. It's going to be awesome. I got to go see it. The second most motivated to see a film I am is when everyone's in disagreement about it. Half the people say it sucks. Half the people say it's amazing. And that's kind of where this film is landing. And you know me, the captain must have an opinion. If the captain, that's why I saw Barbie. I wasn't going to see Barbie, but I'm like, dude, the captain must have an opinion. If everyone's disagreeing about this film, I must know who's correct and who isn't. The only way to know that is to know what I think about it. So in any case, I'm counting on you to keep me humble, Fu Man Blue. That's your job on the ship. So here we go. I do not trust the critics at all. I think the critics are dog shit. And basically, it's, you know, in the words of the scientist in Chernobyl, ask, what did you say? Ask the government and you'll get the lie. That's basically what it is. Ask the critics and you'll get the lie, right? But they're saying 46%. Audience score, 71%, which is a bit lukewarm. That's a bit tepid, but that's still pretty positive. Let's just take a look at the critic scores real quick. By the end of it, you're still wanting the story to start. It never giddies up. It just sits there. You know, strangely, that's the feeling I'm getting from the trailer. That's almost exactly the experience I have of the trailer. I'm kind of waiting for like a hook. Like, what's the story here? Next reviewer, this is the kind of handsome, well-nourished filmmaking that looks an absolute treat up on the screen, but it's about as authentically Old West as a set of dental veneers. Still, it's not uninvolving. Ugh, that's one of the positive reviews. I do think it looks beautiful. Oh, here's another review. It wouldn't be an American dream if it weren't giant, over the top, and fueled less by reason than by sentiment. Oh, that's a salty modern reviewer right there. Yeah, it's basically, it's like anything that portrays the American dream as positive sucks. Ew, gross. See, you see why I hate the critics. Anyway, Costner has a weakness for speeches, like many filmmakers, but he has a feel for the Western and the landscapes of the West. The film ambles and meanders, going nowhere slowly. By the end of its mammoth runtime, the plot has barely inched forward. Ugh. The 3-hour Western, the first installment of a planned tetralogy? Wait, seriously? What is tetralogy? That's 5, isn't it? It's a tetra. Tetra. No, not that. Dang it, I hate it when Google autofills. I don't want to know tetracycline. That's not what I want. Oh, well. Anyway, forget it. I don't know how many that is, but a tetralogy sounds like a lot. That might be a bit overambitious, Mr. Costner. Another, Peter Howell says, many of these mini narratives fascinate with glorious cinematography and standout performances that include Costner as a gruff cowboy. All right. Let's see. The problem is that none of these stories are able to stand up on their own, much less as parts of some visionary cinematic mural. Maybe there's an epic novel in his head, but what he's, Costner, given us with Chapter 1 is a table of contents instead. Ouch. The biggest issue with this film is that in its rush to tell all these stories, it doesn't have time for all kinds of nuanced moments that make characters feel alive and real. Okay, so that's the critics. I'm kind of hearing two things I tend to believe about this. Not enough story advancement. It's kind of all set up. And too many characters, way too bloated cast. That's kind of what I think I'm gathering here. They tried to do too much. Now, hang on. Sorry, I clicked the button. Jeez. 1,000 pardons, my dear chat. Wait, where is my damn reviews? Hang on. I got to grab the link here. This is so embarrassing. I am a professional. All right, there we go. What I was trying to get was the audience reviews. We got about a 75%. Here we go. Here's our verified audience. 2.5 stars. Couldn't understand the actors. They mumbled too many storylines. 5 stars. If you like gritty westerns, Horizon is excellent. Okay, 5 stars. Loved it. Wonderful movie. Must be seen in theaters to appreciate the cinematic experience. Bravo, Mr. Costner. Well done. 2.5 stars. The movie was choppy and boring, very inconsistent. Not enough Kevin Costner in the Kevin Costner movie. The ending was uneven, going right into the next 2 chapters. Very disappointed. The movie. 4 stars. Beautiful and picturesque film. Entertaining and well worth seeing on the big screen. Looking forward to seeing the rest of the series. 5 stars, very well done. Follows 3 different storylines that are easy to distinguish and keep track of. The scenery and realism is spot on. The movie kept a pace that didn't feel like a roller coaster, but also didn't feel like 3 hours. I cannot wait to see Chapter 2. If I had one negative, it would be that in a few places, it jumped around between scenes, felt a little choppy, but wasn't the whole movie. 3 hours went by fast, but the movie is very similar to the 1884 series that streamed a year ago, but with more military involvement. A lot of people saying they liked it. Went by quick, didn't feel like 3 hours. That's interesting. Slow start, confusing at times. Hopefully second and third parts will be better. I think probably what we're dealing with here with this film, it sounds like he's trying to, it's all set. That's kind of what it sounds like. He's stuffing too many characters and storylines into the setup. That could be a problem. So the captain will see it, and we'll see what we see. Anthony Timmons said, I tried to space the words, but the chat box pushed them back together. Oh, yeah. What? I see what you're talking about, Anthony. I see what you're talking about there. All right. Well, I think we're pretty much wrapping it up, folks. I think we're wrapping it up. I wonder if I have one for the road. Yeah. How about one from the road from the angriest man on the internet? That would be Ryan Kinel.
The past 6 weeks have been pretty brutal for Ubisoft after it was revealed that, yes, indeed, the rumors were true. Ubisoft was finally making an Assassin's Creed game set in Japan, the very thing that fans have been asking over a decade for. Unfortunately, it wasn't going to look the same way most people thought it would. The first game ever set in Japan for Assassin's Creed, and they decided, you know what? We don't need a male Japanese character. Why don't we go with a black samurai? And that, of course, set the internet on fire. You can see the reaction to that decision from Ubisoft, but it went far deeper than just the inclusion of a black samurai. Look at this trailer ratio. 750,000 downvotes to less than 300,000 likes. It got brutalized. The comments were absolutely roasting Ubisoft in every way. And it just...
You know, this is why I say that wokeness is a sick worldview, because only an ideology this twisted could result in such a bizarre creative choice. Because what is it they're always arguing for? Well, we want representation. We want representation. You know, there's too much representation of white European culture. So naturally, what do? When they have an opportunity right in front of them to have representation of Japanese culture, they remove the Japanese culture from the main character. They have it be a outsider, a foreigner who is, I mean, let's face it, folks, appropriating Japanese culture. These are their own wacko rules. It's unbelievable. They're so twisted in there because they just are programmed like NPCs. They are programmed like a heat-seeking missile to look for opportunities to change things based on race, that they don't even realize what they did. They're like, you just subverted an opportunity to showcase authentic Japanese culture. It's incredible.
It's continued to get worse. Assassin's Creed Shadows is slammed for featuring a black African samurai as fans accuse makers of erasing Asian men and forcing diversity. And then when they decided to do the gameplay trailer, didn't work out much better either, because they decided that Yasuke, who was going around town just killing indiscriminately Asian men, really felt like a normal American city. Then they did this. Assassin's Creed Shadows Yasuke trap-inspired theme slammed as racist. Yeah, the theme for Yasuke was to do a little bit of a Japanese-feeling song with a hip-hop track behind it.
They put a hip-hop track on a feudal Japan trailer. Dude, where is this? I gotta see this. Oh my God. Assassin's Creed Shadows. Yeah, I gotta find this. I gotta find this, folks. Is this it? No. Maybe that's the one. I don't know. I don't know if that's the one. This is kind of close. Let me just let me share this real quick. All right. So I found this one. So here's one of the trailers. I do not like trailers that are, you know, this is a period piece, and look what they're doing. They're putting all this modern music in it. I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. Let me see if I can find this. I really want to find this. I want the trap music. I want the trap music. Yeah, let's see. No, that's not gonna. Okay, I don't know where it is. If I can find it, we'll watch it at some point. But this is oh wait, actually, I think I might have found. Hang on. Looking, I'm scrubbing for it here. Where? No luck. Okay, forget it. Resuming with the video. I'm so curious about this stuff.
Didn't go over well.
I'll wash away his failure with you.
God, I'm like the dumbest man in streaming right now. It's right there. It's in the video. If I had just played one more second, Ryan Kinel, the angriest man on the internet, would have answered my question. I just went on a whole stupid Google curiosity journey for no reason. Oh God. Not my finest moment, folks. It needs to be said. Roll tape.
Your blood. You will have to spill it first.
And we're the racists. That's what they say. We're the bigots. Oh, you stereotype people. Look at this. It's ancient, feudal Japan. And they're like, no, but it's got to be hip-hop music. Gee, why is that? Wackos, man. Wackos working for these companies. Oh my God.
But if you thought all this was bad everywhere else in the world, think of how the Japanese people felt. Just look at the ratio on their trailer.
It's unbelievable. Dude, I just can't even believe it. Because the lie that they spin is that, well, Yasuke was a real historical figure. We're just being historical. So then you're saying that a character who lived long before there was ever such a thing as hip hop or even recorded music, this music would not have existed in Yasuke's time. So it doesn't even apply to the supposed actual historical samurai that you're attempting to portray. The absolute hubris of these people, the lack of self-awareness. I'm referring, of course, to the creatives behind Assassin's Creed. Wokeness is a disease. It is a sickness of the mind. And it must, and it will, be eliminated from the human psyche because all it needs is for people to see it for it to fail.
10-1. That's the dislike to like ratio, and Japanese fans have had enough. Japanese gamers launch petition to cancel Ubisoft's upcoming Assassin's Creed Shadows game. This is a serious insult to Japanese culture and history. The petition, created by Shimizu Toru, I don't know if I'm saying that right, states recently, lack of historical accuracy and cultural respect has been a serious problem for game developer Ubisoft, which is scheduled to release Assassin's Creed Shadows. This game is based on the samurai of Japan, ignoring the fact the samurai is the upper class of the samurai class and should be family or a person who serves you. Now, of course, it would go on and on and on, but as you can see, look at this petition. It's got over 50,000 signatures. It's only been up for a few days, on its way to 75,000. Now, is this going to do?
Dude, I love this. Dude, I think this is how we inflict massive damage on the woke mind virus, because this puts them in a box. Because they are the ones, not me. This isn't our rules. These are their rules. They're the ones that tell us you cannot dress up as a samurai if you're a white person on Halloween because that's cultural appropriation. White people can't have dreadlocks because that's cultural appropriation. Here they are, by their own logic, culturally appropriating Japanese culture, and Japanese people are demanding in writing that they stop. But they're damned if they do, damned if they don't, because if they cancel it, they're canceling a black protagonist. Why is that? But if they persist, they are ignoring the desires of the Japanese people. Why is that? There's nothing they can do. They're not going to cancel it, folks. This will have zero effect. If there's one thing that the wokies suffer from, it is a catastrophic level of hubris. Nothing can dissuade them from proceeding on this course. They will make another woke Star Wars show. They will make as many MCU projects as they can possibly make. No amount of failure, no amount of rejection will do anything to stop them. Only at the point where someone who is losing money, who does not like losing money, uses their authority to stop them. That is the only thing that will stop them. It is literally the only thing. Fortunately, in Disney, they don't mind setting money on fire. It's kind of a sport for them. So there's no chance that they cancel this. It's going to come out. It's going to be just like Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. It'll be a giant failure. And once again, we, the sane, we, the normal, we, the story lovers, will have inflicted yet another cataclysmic defeat on the wokies.
Anything to
simply by rejecting their product.
Prevent them from releasing this game? No, 100% not. There is nothing that will stop them from releasing this game, but it is a way for people to show that they're pissed off that this is even happening. And you've got Japanese YouTubers that are speaking out about this as well. Just check this out. Japanese anger over AC Shadows is exploding. Ubisoft defenders, even the CEO, would have you believe that Japanese outrage over Assassin's Creed Shadows is just a bunch of Western racists. But Japanese YouTubers are speaking out, and they are mad. Japanese
hat tip grums.
AC fans view this as their one chance to play as a Japanese man in an AC game, and they were robbed and will never get this chance again. On top of that, Ubisoft CEO calls them racist and hateful for saying so. Ubisoft pandered, but not to the Japanese. They continue to insult them by mixing up plant seasons and even using Chinese characters for Japanese names.
Whoa. Whoa. Oh my God. Can you believe that, folks? My God, the freaking arrogance of these wackos, man. That in their slavish, insane desperation to right all the racist wrongs of civilization, look what they do. They use Chinese characters for Japanese names. It's unbelievable. They don't even know they did it, folks. God, when I say these are stupid people, come on, man. What other explanation is there? These are dumb people. How can you have this much money? How can you have this powerful of a game studio and make these kinds of mistakes? How is that possible? I'm genuinely asking. That's not a rhetorical statement. I'm saying, how can this be? How can this be? Oh, crap. I just lost my place. Actually, that's perfect. I'll just skip right to this. So this is a Japanese YouTuber who's like, he's like had enough of this crap.
These videos, one of the people that's speaking out, Shohei Kondo, who has less than 3,000 subscribers, his video is already at 50K. And actually, his video that has at 50,000 views has more likes already than the Japanese trailer for the game does, which has 400,000 views.
Stunning.
That's very telling about how the Japanese people feel about this. Now, obviously, English not his first language, but let's let him speak for a little bit about how this made him feel initially.
I'm pretty pissed. And I really can't believe this is happening. And I really can't believe people don't see these things. You know, I've been a fan of Assassin's Creed. I really loved Assassin's Creed 2. And Assassin's Creed Origin is one of my best video games I ever played.
Now, I pushed back a little. I didn't think Origins was that great, but it's not my top tier list here. Black Flag, that's my favorite Assassin's Creed game.
It's amazing. And I was dreaming one day Ubisoft make Assassin's Creed set in Japan, because ninja is amazing subject for Assassin's Creed. Because
see, that's an incredible point. Why is the main character a samurai? He should be a ninja who were assassins. How can you not understand that? It's unbelievable.
Ninja is assassin and also spy. So it's going to be great. I was hoping Ubisoft, they would do a lot of intense research, or even they hire some Japanese team, like a lot of Japanese group of people work with them.
They hired a bunch of Sweet Baby Inc. type wackos who don't know anything about Japanese medieval culture and don't care.
To historical accuracy, it's a responsibility, you know, you gotta do. And I was believing they would do. But really? So Ubisoft announced new Assassin's Creed series, Assassin's Creed Shadow, set in Japan. It's not Japan. And the main character is not Japanese. But wait.
And he would go on to talk about how, no, they didn't hire a bunch of people to make sure they got this right. In fact, there's a bunch of fucking problems. Not just the idea that, yes, Yasuke did exist. He was a person, but he was never, there's no evidence he was ever considered a samurai. This is a fan fiction thing that people have blown up in recent years. But not only would they go and try to cover their asses for that and admit that, yeah, you know, he's our samurai. We wanted to make somebody who wasn't Japanese in the spot, and we thought that because nobody knows anything about him, we thought he would be a good person to do that with. The fact that they're hiding behind a black character as a shield to deflect any and all criticism of this game, it is really pathetic. And
right, because in the woke worldview, right, equity means equity for all races. Everybody's on the equal playing field, right? But how it actually manifests is it's okay to rob a Japanese character of basically a perfect role for them in a literal historical period piece about Japanese culture, as long as it's not a white person. It's as if to say their defense of this is, well, what are you so mad about? It's not a white person. That's not an actual view of equality or diversity. See, that's how sick it is. As long as it's not a white person, you can completely bastardize, destroy, and misrepresent Japanese culture. That's why I say it's a sick worldview, because only being sick results in these kinds of twisted. They don't even know what they did wrong, folks. That's the thing. They're as shocked as anyone. They're like, what do you mean? It's stunning and brave. I don't understand. I see no problem here. It's like they don't understand it because it's not rational. There's nothing rational about the way that these wackos think.
Obviously, he's getting a lot of support for somebody with not a big following, getting a lot of support for speaking out about this game. There's other videos out there that are in Japanese, so obviously wouldn't do me much good to listen to that. But the idea that, oh, it's just angry white people that are mad about this. No, the Japanese people themselves are pissed. They're pissed that this is.
Dude, if I were Japanese, I would be furious. I would be furious about this because it's like, the actual history is brilliant and incredible, and you don't care. You don't care about the actual history.
Is what they've decided to do when it comes to Assassin's Creed, to this franchise. The one and only time they'll probably have a Japanese game, and you decided to do this on top of all of the other shit, and all in an effort to virtue signal. It's bullshit. Everybody knows it's bullshit. I guess we'll see what happens when this thing comes out later this year. It's still an Assassin's Creed game, which is a massive franchise. I don't know how it's going to do sales-wise compared to some of the other ones. Is it going to get that, 9-10 million level? Or is this going to be enough to keep people away, even though people desperately wanted a Japanese Assassin's Creed?
Hat tip Ryan Kinel, the angriest man on the internet, with anger so deep, rage so vast. It's hotter than the surface of the sun. I mean that as a compliment. I could only dream of reaching such heights of sheer fury. And I will say, I have a feeling that this Assassin's Creed is going to bomb. I just think people are tired of this shit. Sean Levy of Deadpool and Wolverine wants to say, oh, I don't think superhero fatigue is real. It's like, well, it's not so much superhero fatigue as you wackos in Hollywood and big gaming. Like, it's fatigue of you. It's fatigue of you and your bizarre ideas and your slavish attempt to enforce them on everybody else. I think people are sick of that. And so I think that Assassin's Creed Shadows has it's got an uphill climb ahead of it. So we'll see. Will they ever learn their lesson, folks? I don't know. But it ain't looking good. Just waiting for the audio to come back in. Well, we've had a barn burner today, haven't we, on the Captain's Cast? If you've been enjoying the content, and if you haven't already, throw a like on the video. I promise it won't hurt. Share it out there. Think of someone you know who might enjoy hanging out with us, and join us. Let me know in the comments. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think Assassin's Creed will bomb? Is Deadpool and Wolverine going to make $1 billion, or isn't it? Let me know. Hey, I love it that you're here hanging out with me on a Saturday. Wait, what day is it? Sunday. Captain's Cast live on a Sunday. YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, and Rumble. And shout out to all of you in the chat. Anthony Timmons says that looks like ass, meaning Assassin's Creed. I agree with you. Disney stupidity is their favorite pastime. Agree. Skunk's Workshop says, always love your takes and create some damn merch already. Well, jeez, Skunks, you honor me, sir. Thank you, and I will consider it. I live only to serve, in the words of Wei-Yun on Deep Space Nine, the crown jewel of the Star Trek canon. So Fu Man Blue, Starfury, Anthony Timmons, Tom Lurking, I know you're out there, Skunk's Workshop, Neutron Pack, And anyone I might have forgotten, this has been the Captain's Cast. And to all you lurkers and all you watching on the restream, I hope we put on a good show for you. Thank you again. We will be here next Sunday. And until next time, this is Captain Garrett saying, as always, in the words of Q in Star Trek The Next Generation, I will see you out there.